Oh man, we had her on
What
the loop.
was that?
We had her on the loop. Hello, model
Wow.
railroaders. Welcome back to the Second Section podcast where the production value is top drawer. I'm your host, Andy Dorsch. And with me tonight is my co-host, Mike Ostertag. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great so far. That was awesome.
Who did that? Like this guy? Oh man, that was genuinely awesome intro. Um, I guess double intro, right? From Paul. Thanks for the note there. But tonight we got a fantastic show for you. Joining us this evening is Jim Rindt. Jim, welcome back to the show. I think you were on the show once already, right?
Yes.
Excellent to have you back.
Great to be back. Thank you.
How you been?
Wait to say
Fat and
that.
sassy, always, man.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent. So, Jim, you're not shy or not I guess shy about the world of model railroading. Um, and for the viewers that we have out there that don't know who you are, would you give them a little introduction about Jim Rindt?
Sure. I'm from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, which I know I'm trying to get God to not hold that against me. I've been doing modeling since I was a kid in one format or another. In fact, the story goes that the day that I was born, my grandfather found out I was a boy and ran out and bought a train set because he figured now he had somebody with him that he could grow. As I grew up, we could play together, and it was one of his dreams to have an HO model train, and we grew that a little bit together. Never went terribly overboard with it, but of course, as I am often wont to do, I took it overboard, of course. But no, it's been a part of my life. I grew up about 50 feet from the tracks in Cedar Grove, Wisconsin, and so
Okay.
the biggest thing in town was the train. It was the railroad, and
Yeah.
the Chicago and Northwestern in the 1970s never failed to create interest with its various motive power options, should we say?
Yeah, they had an eclectic mix of locomotives on every train.
Yeah, it's sort of like looking at the parking lot of a Grateful Dead concert.
Here we go, and that's it.
Good night, folks.
We're off and running. Oh, that's awesome. That's true. That's true.
But yeah, it's been an interesting life. I went. I kind of dropped away from it for a little while through high school and college for obvious reasons. You're just too busy, and yeah, I mean, I don't know how far you want me to go into detail. My part of this,
give her
this Zaco project. It was interesting. I picked up a Chicago Northwestern Historical Society publication that was the issue was about Sheboygan.
Yeah,
and they had a nice little picture of this crossing tower, this little shanty that stood by Indiana Avenue and 12th Street in Sheboygan.
Yeah,
and or Indiana and 13th, I guess. And I thought, well, I'm going to sit down with this, with some of the few supplies I had at the time, and I said, I want to see if I can model this in N scale because I wanted to see where it was. I hadn't done any structure modeling in a while, and I knocked it out. And my friend Mark said to me, hey, I know this Dornfeld fellow who does these depots by John as like a side business, and you should get his opinion on it. It might kind of rally your spirits and see what what a professional thinks of it. And so I took it to him at Train Fest 2005, I think it was.
Okay.
And he looked it over and he looked at me and he turned it right up way. He turns it upside down just to see how square the corners are. And he goes, This is very nice. This is excellent work. He said, these are wonderfully square corners, especially on something this small. He said, you work in N scale? I said, well, that's my scale. And he said, well, how would you like to help me build a town? And of course I'm like,
yeah, right. What? Yeah, right.
I mean,
that's easy for me to say.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be like somebody pulling you on stage and saying, come on, sing a number with us.
Yeah, right.
So he literally hands me this envelope for what would turn out to be the Radke car dealership and service car dealership and repair facility. And and asked me if I was interested in trying this out. And I thought, well, geez, I suppose I should try,
Yeah, sure.
And I started working on it. That one took me about 6 months because I was just getting back into the scratch building side of my life, and I wasn't super familiar at the time with what was available in terms of windows, materials. I happened to be in Green Bay on the way home from a trip up there to photograph the building, which is a story in of itself. And I happened to come across this really old Holgate and Reynolds brick. If you've ever heard of that, most people are like, oh. What you don't know is that most people invest in gold. I bought Holgate and Reynolds, and I think I'm coming out ahead on this. Yeah. I'm not sure, but we'll see. I can't get over what people offer me for a sheet of this stuff in the few that I have left. But now anyway, so I bought that, and I decided I was going to use that as the material for the building. But in going up there for this first project, I was searching online trying to figure out. He had never given me the name of the town. This is the funniest thing of it. So I start searching for Radke car dealership, and back in 2005, the internet was not as expansive as it is today. You couldn't find as many, say, historical society photos online and all this kind of stuff. And so I finally came across this obituary from like 1948 about this guy in Zachow, Wisconsin, having this car dealership that was built in 1922, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this going, okay. So I figured out where Zaco was. I said to my wife, I said, I got to take a day trip up there and just photograph this building because I guess it's still standing because he had current photos in the packet, but I didn't have any numbers at all.
Yeah.
And there's only so many bricks you can count before you find yourself in a corner going, which is what I do for a living now.
So that Holgate and Reynolds brick pattern, that's like, what is it? It's like maybe bricks about that big, right? Tiny.
Yeah. Well, the sheets are usually about 3 feet long, 3 feet long.
Yeah.
And it's vacuum formed vinyl.
Wow.
And it looks beautiful, and it takes mortar and paint very well.
Yep.
And the story goes, I guess, that the anodized form that these were made with were stolen by an employee, and he thought he was going to get a lot of money for it because it was heavy.
Yeah.
And he thought because it had this gold shimmer after all these years of being pressed against hot vinyl, that he thought it was going to be worth a lot of money. So he took it to a scrap dealer who said, you stole this thing. And the guy threw it in the ditch. And so that's when they stopped making this brick stuff. Is how the story goes. But yeah, I found over the last few years, I've last 15 years or so, I've come across about 50 different sheets of it that I've picked up. And so,
yeah,
please don't rob me.
I see that Dave in BNSF scale, he's got a couple of those brick sheets as well.
Smart man, Dave. Your retirement set.
Yeah, your retirement set. So before we dive into the Zaco project full scale, so were you an N scaler all your life, or when did you make the transition?
I think the first time that I had any experience with N scale, I was still about 10 years old or so, and I thought it was nifty, but that was back when everything went either Mach 3 or didn't run. And then it had to run backwards. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Because that's the only way the motors work properly, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, my first real experience with N scale was watching the tobacconist at Northgate Shopping Center in Milwaukee have a little train with 3 gondolas full of shredded tobacco and a caboose with a Santa Fe F7 running backwards for all its life in the window.
Oh man!
And that was the first time I saw it, and I don't want to say I was hooked per se, but I was really intrigued. And over the years, and by the time I was in high school, I was secretly buying it a little bit on the side, and my parents didn't know. I had to sneak it in after work at 10 o'clock at night. I didn't want them knowing I was an N scaler.
Man, what would your parents say?
They would have sent me to counseling. I probably would have lost my car, man. I mean,
right.
You're running N scale through the neighborhood, man. You're hiding it in the back seat under the cushions. It just becomes a thing,
But so essentially, I mean, for most of your adult modeling life, you've been working in N scale then.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so the what was I going to say here? So with the N scale, any I guess equipment come to mind that you prefer over others, especially in the modern age now, like Kato, they got some nice stuff.
Kato
Or
is has become my go-to,
yeah,
to be honest with you. I mean, they've produced some wonderful models. They took the step to put out famous full passenger trains. And
yeah,
when I was a kid, I mean, let's face it, the only stuff you could get was either European or crap. I mean,
hey, it's a family show, Jim.
I'm sorry,
That's okay. That's okay.
excrement.
Excellent. There you go. There you go.
No, but gosh, I mean, the stuff was terrible. And in some cases, like it was almost like playing with Lionel stuff because I remember the Concord locomotives, E units and whatever. The whole front has to swivel, and you're like, "Where's
Yeah,
the
right.
realism?
Yeah,
Where's the
exactly.
realism on this?" And it was frustrating. But as time went by, things improved, and those of us who stuck with it are. It's sort of like, yeah. Dave Nitch says 400 set. Absolutely. Excellent
Yeah.
example.
Right.
I mean, and here's the joke of it. I bought one of the Metro bi-level sets, with the MP36 locomotive.
Yep. Yeah.
I took it out of the box and I ran it backwards first.
Yeah.
And it was fine. So, all the villains and demons of the past and running N scale backwards, to see it run were exercised,
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
But no, but stuff has been beautiful. I Atlas makes a very fine product.
Yeah.
I don't generally spend the money for the more expensive lines. I don't want to name any in particular, but they just they've left a broad way in the hobby that's very, very expensive, and I'm not. That's just not my budget.
Yeah. Sure.
It's beautiful, but
So you also have not only being world famous N scaler, but you also have a business as well.
Yeah.
A model railroad business. Do you want to
Yes.
go ahead and tell us just a bit about that?
Yeah, I'm finally getting it back running again. I was without a laser for quite some time, and as you know, those are expensive, very expensive. And I finally spent the money to get myself back in the game. And I do have some kits that I've put out, and I'm behind. I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm like 5 years behind on where I wanted to be in life,
Sure.
as far as that goes, because this laser died just as I was about to put out some really excellent kits, and I'm trying to get all that back and running again. I didn't want to pay somebody else to do the laser work because part of the way I do things is to perfect it as I make it. I do the engineering, I do the math, I make sure everything lines up, but there's still little give and takes, little shims here and there that you want to make just to improve things, and you have your aha moments that you want to include. And if I just packaged up a design and sent it to somebody, then I got to live with whatever comes out. I can't fix it. And and I also like to be able to respond. If a customer comes up with a good idea, hey, you know what? I'm going to play Volkswagen here, and I'm going to improve the design mid-season. So I'm trying to get back to where I had to be. So if for some reason
Uh-oh.
Oh, we lost them. That's all right. I'll take them down and bring them back.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, internet. We have to pipe in sunlight out in Sheboygan, and
The photo cells probably died on them.
the photo cells on the internet died. But I will say this. So Jim's business is Renz Relics, and we do have that down in the there you are in the description below. So if you guys want to check out Jim's business, he's got some cool depots and all that fun stuff. Some good high quality laser cut structure kits that I have two of them myself. I have a Chicago and Northwestern #2 depot, and then the section house for holding all the section crew, I guess you could say.
Yes. Actually, it was supposed to be a place for them to, depending on where it was located, that depot could either be lived in by the family of the section foreman, or the men could come and stay there for a night, almost like a
Really?
on-site hotel. Yeah, it depends where you were.
Oh, that's kind of awesome. Yeah. So again, check out Jim's catalog here. The website is in the show notes. So you guys check them out. It's Renz Relics, rentzrelics.com. So you do custom work as well, correct, Jim? Did I lose everyone?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. So we must have lost Jim again there.
There I am. I think the kids are sucking up all the bandwidth. You know how that goes.
Yeah, the video games, right? But then you do custom stuff as well, right, Jim?
Correct. I do a fair amount of custom work, yes.
Yeah. So if you have requests, send them over to Jim, and he'll take care of you. So
I'll build in any scale. I've actually custom built in Z scale right on up to G.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. G's enormous.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So that's I didn't know that. So you'll do like S scale and all those other things too?
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool.
Does anybody build an S anymore? Hey, Mike.
Oh,
I'm just teasing
fired.
now. I'm just teasing.
Shots
I'm
fired.
just teasing.
Wow.
If I'd had more time this week, I was actually going to surprise you with something in S scale, but I just didn't have the time this week to do it. So my apologies.
Yeah. Very good intro, Jim. So tonight on the Second Section podcast, our lineup's going to be, we're going to have Jim up after the short line of the show. So we'll have short line of the show tonight. That's going to be a fun one. We'll have Jim talk about Zaco and the process and essentially how he scratch built an entire town basically. And then tonight we will be doing What's on Your Workbench after Jim's discussion, where we will crown a Workbench winner of the week. So make sure that if you haven't tonight, go out to the Second Section podcast Facebook group. I did put a post out there earlier today asking for what's on your workbench. So
does that count? Does this one count right there?
What's that?
That workbench that's behind me.
No, that you are absolutely not allowed to play in what's on your workbench.
Oh,
so you don't get to.
That's not very sporting.
That's not very sporting. But anyhow, so we got about 70 people out there in the chat tonight, part of the section crew. And I want to essentially throw some people up on the stage tonight. So if you're out there in the audience tonight, why don't you go ahead, give us a shout out, say hello, and we'll see if we can't do a rundown of everyone who's here tonight. I do see Tony Dixon's here tonight. Daniel Banks is here. He says he loves N scale. Such a nice change. And let's see here tonight. Since we're talking about N scale and talking about various other scales, tell us what you model. What scales do you model in? I don't think we've done this one yet. This is going to be a doozy. So Daniel Banks kicks us off. Says, I love N scale. Such a nice change of perspective and is also modeling ON30. Let's see here. Oh my God, we got a bunch of people here in the chat. Let's see. Daniel Banks again says, hello, Tony Dixon is in the house tonight. Bill Kenkel is here. Green Bay and Western Lines. Paul, welcome. Ian Boone is here. Howdy. Wigwag Workshop. Hey there, Wigwag. How you doing? Dave Nitch is here this evening. John Garvin. Dave, BNSF N scale from Knowlton, Wisconsin. I'm sure we have a bar and a church there. Let's see here. Fox River Rail fan doing the Fever 1992 HO scale. Tom O'Connell HO scale. Randy Timmerman HO. Ralph Renzetti is HO and N. Paul again, HO for life. Otter Creek and Rio Grande, HON3. I started an N scale. Ooh, that's how N scale is the gateway scale, I think, in the model railroading. David Winter, HO, but had N scale as a kid. Paul August here, the C&W Mondovi line, HO scale. Boomer Diorama, HO 187 scale. Bill Kenkel, HO. John Rose, HO and ON 30. David Piercy, hello, second section. I modeled the Newfoundland. It's public reading. Newfoundland Railroad in HON 3.5. Did I get that right?
Sounds about right.
Dave, you're going to have to correct me on that.
Is that using N scale track? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Oh,
Has to be.
So that's why the guy got converted from N scale to HON3. That was just, he was saving money on track, man. He just,
yeah.
It's awesome.
Thomas Chris in the house tonight. Fremo HO Chessie in the 1970s. Kaylee Fay, hello again from Germany. Welcome, Kaylee. Scott Thornton, HO scale, but I'd like to try F. Really? Is that 123rd? F
That's
scale?
big.
Is that
at 129?
Isn't that? I thought that was 22.3 or whatever it is, isn't it?
I have no idea. That's these new letters. People are going to start saying they do TT and 00, and I'm getting scared now. Here we go. Dwight at Northern Star says I have HO and N doing Sioux Milwaukee in the GN. Timmy's
Nice.
Miniature and Weathering N scale and 1/50th scale mostly. Adrian Gadsden, N scale since 1979. Ready for the
There's
show.
a pioneer, man.
Yeah. Wow. Thomas Klamoski's here this evening. HO scale and maybe 2-rail O. Tony Dixon, S scale is the best scale. Could put that on a t-shirt. Wigwag, HO and G. But I really want to get into S at some point because I like scratch building.
Give me a call.
Gary Cobes, greetings from Chinook, Washington, HO scale. Hello, Gary. Let's see here. Dave's given us a location between, Knowlton is between Wausau and Stevens Point. Jim Donahue saying, howdy, modeling the Bat and Kill Railroad in New York.
Nice.
Kaylee chimes back in and says, I'm doing HO scale, but had an N scale layout for some time. Bob Tusink, HO scale. Don Head, N scale, the nice scale. Andrew DK, HO scale, but wish S scale had more market share. Perfect size for detail and operations.
Just got to dive in. There's a ton of stuff coming out.
Randy Timmerman would love to do N scale, but the greasy meat hands don't work. Dave Piercy, yes, TT scale.
There
track.
you go.
There it is.
Nice.
There it is.
Mick Shea, N scale rules. Jeremy Lighthouse, S scale and 00. Let's see here. Rick Bognett, N scale in the BNSF Red Rock subdivision in Oklahoma. It says here, I'm also doing the Twin Cities Western and N and HO. Austin Clunker, my dad's N scale trains got me into the hobby. Dave, BNSF N scale since 1971. Welcome, section crew, to the show this evening. Fantastic chat going on tonight. I see a lively chat out there. So a couple ground rules about the chat. Keep it model railroad or modeling related. Let's keep it civil. I don't want to have to kick you out. We also have moderators here this evening. If they feel things get a bit spicy, they're going to give you the stanky boot. All right. So on with our program this evening. We have the short line of the show. Mike, are you ready?
I think I'm about as ready as I'm going to get with this one. There's just so much that we could cover on this one.
There's so much. Well, I tell you what, we'll take our first commercial break. We'll let you make some final points here, and then we'll kick it off with the short line of the show. All right, Mike, make those final adjustments. Short line of the show tonight. Where are we on the big map of the United States?
We are in Massachusetts. And yeah, this railroad I have personally rail fanned, and it has been the subject of early podcasts.
Early podcasts, eh?
Early podcasts. If early model railroad podcasts.
Model railroad podcast.
Yes. Anybody that's ever listened to the Scotty Mason show, you know that he was a huge follower, and probably still is a huge follower of this railroad. And here comes the
Can anyone guess it in the chat?
Does anybody know what it is? Before I do it, before I announce it, does anybody know what it's going to be? Anyone?
No, I think everyone left. They're just the suspense killed everybody.
I think so. It is the. Hold on a second. This is
the production value. It started off with a bang with the double.
Checking the pronunciation guide.
Yeah. No. I wanted to make sure I had the right thing up. That's all there is. Here we go.
Thomas Chris, Mass Central.
No, but nice try. Nice one. But that's a good one. That would be a cool one. They have GP28s.
Cape Cod and Eastern?
Disney Elevated.
Yep, David, you got it right. How did you know?
The Disney Elevated. All right.
The Disney Elevated. Okay. All right. So here it is. The Grafton and Upton Railroad Company.
Nice.
Outstanding. The GNU.
Yeah.
That's pretty logo.
Isn't that cool? It's kind of slick. Really, really kind of slick. So here's a map.
Okay.
You see the map? You can see
I do.
It should be, okay. And I'm going to zoom in here. So basically the Grafton and Upton is just a little shy of 25 miles long. And it runs from North Grafton down to Milford. Okay. It connects two CSX lines. Now these say MBTA, but they are also CSX.
MBTA, what's that?
Massachusetts Bay Transport Authority or something along those lines. Transit Authority. It's their commuter line. And this is a freight railroad sandwiched in between them. But the CSX also runs on these. So the really neat thing is the fact that the MBTA has also used the Grafton and Upton at one point to shuttle pieces of equipment from this line here down by Milford up to the North Grafton area. So it's not very often that it happens, but it has happened. Yeah, it has. There are videos out here online that have shown this happening on a couple of occasions. So now, one of the really neat things about this railroad is it is flipping old, and I mean old. That's no joke. Established in 1873, and it is still an independent short line today.
That is beyond awesome.
Is that not one of the coolest things?
Right.
Like the longevity, just this little 25-mile stretch of railroad. What made this so special that it survived all these years by itself on its own? You know, it's just
really. It was 95 when Penn Central formed.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah. So I'm gonna make another attempt to do some production stuff here. All right. How am I going to do this? I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to go over here and I'll do this. Can you guys, where am I here? My God. Here we go. That'd help if I had the right thing up.
Oh, you're doing great.
Thanks.
Nice execution.
Great. All right. Here's the, yeah, you're doing great. Beautiful execution. So, so the Grafton and Upton has had like just a storied history. There were electric operations on it at one point, from what I understand. It had steam, it had electric, it had. I mean, it's just one of these railroads that its history is so rich and so deep that it's just really hard to kind of grab onto all of it. So I'm just going to try to hit some of the high points.
Okay.
There were today, right now, they're in the process of building some enormous industrial park on this line. Like 20 warehouses and a boatload of spurs off of it.
Oh wow.
So yeah, right?
Sweet.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a video on YouTube about that explains all of that also. And if you go and look at the Wikipedia page here, it details like the line at one point was, for all intents and purposes, kind of left for dead at one point. And then it got this rejuvenation, and slowly but surely things have really started to happen with it. And it's really growing. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures, and one of the photos that I'm going to show you, I believe that the engine facility that you're going to see is now a part of a propane plant, and that the engine facility has been moved to a different location. That's one of the things that I had read. As a matter of fact, Mike Rose had told me that. And him and Mike Rose and Scotty Mason have also visited the Grafton and Upton on several occasions. And I've got some of his photos here. Here's one of the things on the just by doing a Google search for Grafton and Upton Railroad. This is ridiculously incredible. There is amazing photos in here.
Wow.
Is that? I mean, they had 44 tonners at one point.
Yeah, thanks to you. Now I'm going to be up till 3:00 in the morning reading about this.
Is that? You're welcome. Hey, here, check this one out.
Oh, sweet.
This is an old manufacturer's railway, Alco, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Cool.
I mean, they had. Oh, look at this.
What do we got going on here?
Oh, let me see. An F unit.
Oh, that is slick.
That is a really good looking F unit. When was that? And it has the ditch lights on it.
Yep.
So it has to be
was 2014.
So they were running F units in 2014.
At least this one was.
Unbelievable.
That's beyond awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so it's a railroad that just seems to defy time. I mean, now you could see the
yes, Dwight.
The jeez. The former CSX MP15 ACs, they now run these as their regular power. But it's really such an iconically cool short line railroad, and it's never grown. It's
so in its illustrious, double up of Penn Central's history, it's only been 25 miles. It's never been big.
24 point. What does it say? 24.85 or 24 point?
So it's been the same since the 1870s. That little stretch of railroad has been that right away.
From as far as I can tell, yeah.
Well, you know what they say in business. It's all about what? Location.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
No, their Facebook page leaves a little bit of something to be desired here. I mean, it does. I don't know that this has been updated. Doesn't look like it's been updated for quite a while.
So this is the business's Facebook page, right?
I believe so. Yeah, it's pretty much. I think it doesn't really, and they do not have. I could not find a website for them. No, there's no. If you go and do a Google search for Grafton and Upton, there is no company website. So, which is in today's day and age, kind of really odd. Here's some more Google searches I did. I mean, I was doing a whole bunch of research on this. Now, Railroad Pictures. I wish they'd get rid of this stuff right down there, but they have a really good set on their roster, and we can show some of these here quick.
It's a nice watch.
That was a nice watch, isn't it? St. Louis Union Station. I mean, that's an engine that was on the railroad at one point.
Wow.
This one's really sharp. That's a really cool looking S2, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's clean.
I know.
When was that picture supposedly taken?
72, it looks like. October 1st of 1972. So, I mean, just the painting over these louvers alone gives me headaches.
Yeah, right.
And that's just an S scale.
Yes, that's an any scale, right?
There's a couple of great comments here. Dave Piercy says, I dream of working for a company that doesn't even have a website.
Yeah, right.
CNW and Mondovi line. Paul says, this is why they're still independent. Guilford can't find them.
That's amazing. I love
That's
that.
a good comment, Paul.
That is the best comment ever. Here's what their F unit looked like before they painted it.
Wow.
It's kind of a pseudo New York Central type of
New York Central vibe going on there.
Yeah, right. It's pretty. I don't know what railroad this was, but I think that's really kind of slick. And then obviously it's ended up looking. Let's see, like that. That is sharp. That is just sharp.
That's a cool looking. So is that now I'm partially to mostly colorblind. Is that a maroon color?
It's black.
It's black. Okay.
Yep.
So Thomas Chris
you can turn in your driver's license in tomorrow morning at.
No, I know how to read the stop and go lights. That's just the yellow one or the one in the middle means you go faster.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, fine.
So
then you're good.
I do want to ask, I guess, a couple of more questions here. So this is something that you've personally
yes
rail fan, right?
Yes, I have, and I am going to make an attempt here. Okay,
I love the attempt.
I know. Present there.
Okay.
Okay, now what did I do? I don't know.
We're back.
Let's see here. Tab.
I can go for a tab.
Tab? Oh. All right. Let me see if I can get this to work. And then do here and go here. And then we're going to go here and this and then click. And yeah, those are the pictures I took right here.
Nice. So you got a couple pictures.
I got a handful. There's kind of a series of them. So this was back in, 2000. I want to say it was 5 years ago. So like 2017, 2018, somewhere in there.
Nice.
Then I went out and I visited Bob Frischella, and one day we decided to go rail fanning, and I said, hey, let's go hit up the Grafton and Upton if it's not too far away. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
One of these is a slug. One is a slug. Matter of fact, it's the 1800, I believe, is the slug, and this is the GP7U.
Okay. So are you showing? All I see is a bunch of thumbnails right now.
Oh,
yeah.
Really? Oh, well, let me fix that. It said I was sharing.
You may have shared the wrong window.
Oh, hold on. How about that?
Much better.
Okay. So the 1801 is was a functional GP7U at the time.
Okay.
As you can see, it's missing a headlight, it's missing its ditch lights, it's not in service now. The 1800, the one right behind it, is a slug. I wish I would have asked if I could have gotten this beacon off the top. That would have been kind of slick, but whatever.
It's kind of a cool looking beacon.
You can see in the background on this photo, you can see one of the MP15 ACs sitting back there. You can see a passenger car back there. Now, here's one of their GP9s or GP7s, I should say. And their caboose, which is really cool. Mike Rose has some really good pictures of that. Here's one of the MP15 ACs that they were leasing at the time. Sure. This was just I can't remember why the flags were on there. I don't know if I was there right after 4th of July or I can't remember.
I'm like, what are you talking about? The flags on the roof.
Flags on the flags on the nose there, yeah. So I took several of these photos.
That's awesome.
So then we went down outside of town, and I believe that was at Upton. So we went outside of town and we caught this job coming into town, and it wasn't very big. It just had a handful of gons, but it had a pair of the MP15 ACs on it, and these things were slick. These are really, really cool. I really hope that they paint these one day into their like a really cool Grafton and Upton paint scheme.
Yeah.
Because I mean they're okay the way they are, but you can tell they were CSX and.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks like they were hiding out in a CSX yard.
Yeah, and okay, one thing I'm gonna say is, do you notice what this crossing is being added? So every crossing that they have that is not protected, they have to stop and flag. And that's what this gentleman is doing right here. That's his car. He's actually flagging the crossing for the train to go across.
So for those who aren't familiar with that term, what is that when you're flagging a crossing? What does that mean?
That means that the train's got to come to a stop prior to getting to the crossing, and then the conductor goes out and stops traffic, and then signals the engineer to come across the grade crossing, and then the conductor gets back on. It's a way to safely navigate across the grade crossing that is typically not protected or has an issue of some sort. So
I got to see that happen on the Minnesota commercial a few months back.
Yeah, we just had to do it twice today at work today. We have a grade crossing in Manitowoc that's having an issue, and it just so happens that we had to stop and flag the crossing in order.
Really?
Yeah. It's not a big deal. It's just annoying.
It's not a big. It's just annoying.
It's just annoying, But so there's some other photos here. The scenery though around this area is absolutely. If you didn't know that we were talking about Massachusetts, this could be anywhere Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Or anywhere Midwest. Honestly, I mean, or out in the East or anywhere. It's really, really pretty up there.
But it's not overgrown either. I mean, a lot of times you see short lines don't have the budget for trimming the verbs, as they say. And and this looks really clean. I mean, it looks That's so
The
cool.
track is relatively straight too, from the looks of it.
Right? Certainly
Yeah.
better than anything the Milwaukee Road had in the 1970s.
Isn't that the truth? So this right here was really interesting. We actually were there. We didn't stick around to watch them actually cut this in, but they were cutting this right over here as a switch. They were putting some finishing touches on, and they were going to be lifting this in and cutting it in right here where this guy is standing.
Oh, wow.
And it's supposed to go, if I remember right, it goes off to the right.
Cool.
And I believe the track it's supposed to connect to is right here. So it was really kind of neat. Yep.
Oh, that's a good shot of it.
Yep. There's a right-hand switch right there.
Some serious braid there too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was really an what I found interesting is that they were doing this and they put a silt fence up.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never seen a railroad do that before when they were doing something, but hey, whatever. So then we got ahead of this guy. This is the same train we just saw. And I just took an opportunity to kind of do a little artsy fartsy photography with the train coming up the hill. And this one right here is one of my favorite pictures right there.
That's
cool.
I like that one, the way that one turned out. If you look real close through the trees over here, you can see that conductor's car.
Oh, sure enough.
Yep. And there he is. Now you can see, well, if you go back here.
I can see his
you can see
beer
his
belly
stomach.
there. He's
You
not
can see his
hiding
stomach.
behind the pole.
Yeah, no, he's not hiding
like
behind
I
the wall.
represent that remark.
Yeah.
I resemble that remark is what I say.
So then a couple of crossings later, here he is. As a matter of fact, I never moved. I had zoomed in and
Wow.
yeah, it's just a really cool operation, and this was all that we were able to see of them, and it was just such a neat small little chase that I actually want to go back out there, and I am planning on going back out there possibly this fall maybe.
Ooh,
but I'm not
wow,
sure.
players.
Yeah. Yeah. I've now I'm going to go and show a few more photos. I want to show Mike Rose's photos because
that one thing I noticed is it was really neat how it's kind of going through the residential area like that. You know, it's like right in people's backyards. It's kind of cool.
Right.
Nice effect for modeling.
Exactly. You know, and that's the thing is like, there's so many different things you could take away. Make my phone ring when you're heading out this way. Absolutely.
That
DCC
switch,
friendly.
that switch they were building was probably DCC friendly.
So
It did look like Code 55 rail from my angle.
Yeah, it's probably code 40. All right, let's see. I screwed that up.
Good job.
You're welcome. I'm on top of of the production game.
We have been adamant or aggressively trying to bring the production value down this evening here on the second section.
Here, how we go? How's this?
Ooh, that's cool.
Here is our good friend Mike Rose, and this is Scotty Mason right there.
No kidding.
Nice.
Yeah, I wouldn't kid you. Yep. Those are them guys.
Those are them guys.
Those are them guys. Thing that I found interesting when I looked at these pictures that I didn't pick up on, the grab irons are all red or orange, and so are the lift rings, and the pin lifter is orange, and the jack pads are orange. It's or red or whatever color you want to call that.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was really interesting.
What's this?
This would be their lone caboose. This thing is so cool. All right. I don't know the history, none of that, but what's cool about it is the fact that it's got a boxcar end on it.
Can you
It looks
zoom
like.
in on that, Mike?
Oh, I think I might even have a better photo.
Nope.
No, maybe not.
No.
Okay.
That's slick. That's some homegrown stuff right there.
Yup. And talk about being protected on a shove. Right? I mean, you really don't have that open grid work. You don't have the cage work out there that you normally would.
And that thing's just to a bad neighborhood.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Ray from around the layout commenting on the grabs and the lift lever. Orange, you glad they painting them like that? Wah, wah.
Until you have to paint it in N scale.
Right. So here you have, they did not, this is good use of the their logo. They put it on the cupola on both sides. It's on both ends. But look at this.
It looks like a house window.
Look at how clean it is on the inside of this thing. That is almost like white. It is. This is like ridiculously clean on the inside of this thing.
Yeah, there's no cigarette smoke stains in there or chew.
Nothing. I'm wondering if they don't use this as a business car of some sort.
Those windows are fairly fancy.
Yeah, I was going to say, those are some all-weather windows right there.
Yeah. So, this is one of the this is I believe a plastics plant. I believe
it looks like it.
Looks like it.
Yeah. Here's the 1750 GP9. Yeah.
Some pretty sure spark arresters up there.
I was just going to say spark arresters, man.
A phase 3. With the single, with the single 48 fans, dynamic brakes have been covered over.
Wow.
So, I mean, very modelable in S scale.
And the bearing buddy covers there on that rear truck on the front wheel.
Right here. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's this? Another Jeep
9. I believe this is a former Grand Trunk Western GP9R, just like the one that I'm using in Manitowoc right now. That's pretty sharp. I like that. Those are good. These are good engines.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a different view of that caboose with a little bit different. You can see would that be called a dreadnought end? Is that what the name of that is? I was thinking
we should have a name like that. There's battleship guns. You got to have a dreadnought end, right?
Yeah, I mean, would that be the way it is? Because it's this. What is it? Non-terminating and terminating ends, right? So these would be considered a terminating end because they come to a taper.
If you hit it the right way.
So Phil Aloco says, is that the deadline?
This would be their deadline right now, yes, because they got the MP15 ACs in, and here's some more. This is the other end of this. That were a bunch of the plastics cars sitting there and stuff like that. So I'm gonna stop sharing there, and we're gonna go here, and I'm gonna go do this. Actually, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do this. Now, I mentioned that they have a YouTube presence.
Yes.
And so let's show the YouTube presence. Here is their YouTube presence. And there aren't a great deal of videos on it, but the ones that are in here, here's a video of that MBTA, of the MBTA going over to Grafton and Upton. Here's the video talking about, this is actually from this month in March, showing the development up in Hopedale, Massachusetts.
Nice. Wow. That's that big warehouse thing that you were talking about, right?
Yeah. I mean, just
cornfields to cash cows.
Look, I mean, it is just an enormous amount of property that they've got there. And so, I mean, the videos that are here are really slick. A lot of more modern stuff. There's one right here that's about a half hour long on the Grafton and Upton, showing when all the Jeeps and stuff were running. So yeah, check them out there. and then I'm going to try to do this. Let me know if this works. Did it go over to Flickr?
Yeah, Flickr.
Okay.
Look at us.
Flickr has an enormous amount of Grafton and Upton photography on it. I mean, almost anything you'd want to know about it.
So you could really prepare as a rail fan. That's fantastic. Oh,
check this out.
That's an old flanger, man.
That's a wood flanger.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, this flanger looks oddly like the caboose.
It's like they just chopped an old boxcar and put a cupola on top of it.
That's what it looks kind of like. But this is just some of the stuff that's out there on Flickr is just, it's out right here. Well, here's that flanger in action right here.
Nah. Judging by the style of the car, that thing's got to be close to 100 years old, if not more.
Oh, I'll bet you.
Is there anything in the comments here from? So Paul from the C&W Mondovi line says someone has to be modeling this line.
Yeah,
I could not find. I actually put in a Google search for modeling the Grafton and Upton, and I could find nothing except for some decals that I believe was it Highball? Was it Highball
Graphics? Right, that's where you're
Highball. Yeah, Highball Graphics, I believe, makes them.
So they're
okay here.
There you go.
Honestly, come on, seriously, how do you not want to?
What a cool
how do you not
scene.
have a corporate calendar with that as the cover?
No kidding, right?
That's gorgeous.
So
it's. I mean, you got your F unit right there. What's behind that? Is that a?
That's the GP9. The GP9R. Yeah,
GP9R.
Like yep.
And nice curved scene there.
God, that's gorgeous.
It begs and screams to be modeled. I mean, it just does. So Massachusetts as a whole is just a beautiful state altogether. Especially for when you're looking at railroads and stuff like that. But I mean, look at that. That could be north of Green Bay on the ELS. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's really, if you're not sure what you want to do for a railroad and you want to try building something small to get started, consider doing something like this. If you want a small roster, a roster of relatively similar locomotives, they're going to be really, really close to. I mean, there are differences in them. Obviously, we've seen that, but you really could build a really nice little layout with this based around this, and it's only 24.5 or 25 miles long. So your selective compression, really is going to be. I mean, not that bad, really.
And the scenery is something that's not. I mean, it's challenging in its own right, but it's not something that's overwhelming. It's not like you have Colorado rock faces or anything like that. It's
trees and
different types of trees.
A
little bit of a sunken right of way, a little bit of a raised right of way, a couple of interesting grades. I mean.
And you could it all depends on what time you want it. This is, from what I understand, this might have been this is what it looked like at Milford at one time.
Okay.
So it was a little shaggy, right?
It was, it was in a little bit of disrepair for a little while.
When they rebirthed it.
Yep. But what a great rejuvenation and what a great little railroad.
Yeah, it's a cool story.
And just go out, do your research on it. I probably have not done this railroad anywhere near the justice it deserves, because if I lived out east, the kind of guy I am, this would be the railroad I'd be looking to really be modeling. And it's just.
It's got huge hometown fan base written all over it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And like I said, Scotty Mason and Mike Rose have talked about it at length. It was a regular segment on their podcast. Was just the update on the update on the Grafton and Upton.
The rejuvenation.
So if you want to go and check those out, I'm not sure if Scotty and Mike have got their old podcasts are still out there or not. But if you stumble across them, just give them a little bit of a listen because they do talk about this railroad a lot. So
right.
But that's not they don't do it anymore. I don't think.
One really interesting point. Talk about being ahead of the game. Maybe this is how these guys survived. It says they ceased passenger service on August 31st, 1928. I mean, think about that. They're 43 years ahead of the game on Amtrak. They didn't even have to pay in.
Right.
Well, that's crazy.
But yet there's
the heyday.
But yet they still bridged the two segments of
now CSX.
Well, now CSX, right? So, that's kids. That is your short line of the show.
Wow.
Like I said, I didn't even come close to. There's so much that we could have done. I could have just said, "Hey, Jim, thanks a lot for being here," and that was it.
That was it.
It was appreciate it. We'll talk to you later. But I'm going to say this: we're going to Michigan next.
Michigan,
and I already have the railroad picked out.
Oh, really?
Yep, the railroad is picked out. This is another one that is a personally rail-fanned railroad. And it is see what David Winter says?
No, I don't.
David, up a little bit. There you go. Let that be a hint to you.
It's real subtle, Mike.
Yeah, we're going to do the Escanaba and Lake Superior is going to be the one that we do next.
So nice. Check us out for that one. That's going to be a hoot and a half.
What did you call that? What did you call that there, Jim? Wisconsin's comb over?
Wisconsin's comb over in the UP.
Up in the Upper Peninsula. Upper Peninsula.
Yeah. So
Adrian and Blissfield would have been. I thought about that one. Great Lakes Central. Thought about that one.
Yeah, the comments, Chris. These were discussed prior to. But yeah, we're gonna go up into the UP.
We're going up into the motherland.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a fun show there.
Yeah. Then.
Is that
that'll have the kids coming back for more,
Yeah.
Yeah. Then.
So that was an excellent short line, Mike. Thank you for that. I do want to have a quick programming note here. If you may have seen, let's see here, was it Wigwag Workshop tossed out a super chat for us? Thank you there. I just wanted to say that on air. Appreciate that. It's a great way to essentially support the podcast here. Either throw us a like, throw us a subscribe, or if you feel so inclined, super chat, super stickers. Those are things that you can throw out in the live stream. That helps support and defray the cost of putting on the show for everyone. So appreciate any support you guys can give. So, anyways, Mike, fantastic short line. That was a really, really cool. I appreciate it.
I was, as soon as I got to Massachusetts, there was a couple of states. I knew exactly what I was going to do when I got there. There was no questioning it. This one and then the next two are part of that.
Yeah. So are the t-shirt that you're wearing too, is that foreshadowing?
This?
Yeah.
Maybe.
What is that? Wisconsin Calumet?
Maybe.
Very good. So, all right, we're going to get to the meat and potatoes part of our show now. So we've brought on Jim Rindt from Renz Relics here, and he's got a really cool story to tell about you modeled an entire town.
Inch for inch.
Inch for inch.
In N scale.
In N scale.
The men in the pretty white jackets, they'll be here to fit you soon.
I have a closet full.
Yeah, I bet.
This is an amazing story, though. I've heard this. This is.
Well,
so
you know.
So why don't you take us through? So you in the introduction you talked about you're meeting up with your friend from Depot's John.
Yep.
And when we last left our heroes, you were just starting to describe the Radke Auto dealership.
Yeah. So I I drove up there to and I'll do a little background, but we'll do that like first chapter of the novel thing here.
Yeah.
And so I drove up and found Zaco, and it's a quiet little town, largely undisturbed.
Really?
From what it has been. I mean, now they're starting to see one fellow, I guess in particular, is buying up buildings and turning them into apartments because there's a lot of people that are looking for bedroom communities for Green Bay.
Okay.
And so it's about 30 miles out from Green Bay. Or something like 25 or 30 miles.
Yeah. So, and that's to the northwest, right?
Correct. Up Highway 29 in Wisconsin.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
And so I drove up there, and I started. The town is largely closed down in terms of they've got a feed mill that was still working. They had a business that did like interior would redo furniture. And car interiors and things like that.
Sure, like an upholstery type place.
Yeah, an upholstery business. Thank you. That's the word. I just couldn't think of it.
Yeah.
You think anyway. But it's mostly homes, and farms on the outskirts. And the funny thing about this town, just a sidebar, it's really funny. People are always asking us, well, where's the church? Isn't there any church in this town?
Yeah, for Wisconsin,
the truth is that literally on the outskirts of the major corners, there are 4 different churches. There's 2 Lutheran churches of different denominations. There's a Methodist, and I think it's a Presbyterian or Free Church or something like that. But there's none that are in the town, and so it's just kind of funny. That's one of the questions we get. But getting back to the Radke dealership, it's the funny thing. I pulled up and I recognized the building from the photos that were given to me. I only had 2 black and white scans of photos that were sent to me, that were given to me by John in this packet. Excuse me. And I knew very little about it. So I brought my tape measure, brought my camera, and I started making some notes. Sure. And all of a sudden this fella pulls up on like a little Honda scooter. And it turns out his name is Terry Radke. It was his uncle who had started this dealership. And he now owned it, and he did some custom car work in there. But other than that, it's just largely a quiet storage area. And he comes up and he says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm part of this group that's modeling. There's 2 of us. We're modeling the town." And I said, "I don't know a whole lot about the project at this point, except to say that this very interesting building was given to me to do. And so I just thought I'd come up and take some measurements." And he kind of laughed and he says, "Oh, so Dean Proper got a hold of you, huh?" And I said, I guess if that's his name. I'm going through John Dornfeld, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And so he says, "Yeah, okay, I went to high school with Dean. So you know Dean?" I said, "Well, I've heard of him, yes." And he said, "Okay, well," he said, "do you want to look around? Do you want me to take you inside or anything?" Of course, I'm like, duh, So we go inside, and for like the next 2 hours, we're walking around, and he's got like just a ton of old car parts, belts and fuel tanks and things, all kinds of car parts inside this dealership. And the original floor is still in there. The sales desk is still in there. It's completely wood. Wow. And off to the side, I see this kind of funny lattice work looking thing. And I said, "Oh, what's that?" He said, "Oh, that's the sign from out front." That was the one that was up there in 1922 when we opened the dealership. I'm sitting there, I'm going apoplectic, going, "Can I at least get a couple of shots of this thing?" So I did, and so he told me a little bit about the history and how the building it's two different completely architectural styles. Over the dealership side, it's a domed roof, an arched roof, and over the parts side, and where the mechanical spaces, the boiler, the heating system were located, it's a pitched roof, and so he also had this photograph of the town, which is what we ended up basing our whole project on, this 1949 summer aerial that was taken. You know how they used to go around and they take pictures of the town at one or two different angles, and not like a government thing. This was exclusively done as a for-profit thing. These guys would fly over in a Piper Cub, they'd shoot the town, then they'd develop the pictures, take them into the town, say, hey, would your local businesses be interested in seeing an aerial shot of your property? And so he had the one framed for Radke's, and so I was able to shoot that and work with that as well for dating it. And the building itself had the old FAA markings on it. You know, this is the name of the town, this is true north, and it's 10 miles to the next airport, which is the circle with the 10 on it, you know.
Oh, wow.
What building was that one?
That was the Radke car dealership.
Okay. So just a quick note, Jim, if you have any pictures to share as we're describing this, you're doing a fantastic job painting the word picture, but I think I have
the website up right here.
You have the website up.
There's a whole you have there's a website called the Zaco Project.
Correct.
And it pretty much has every single structure on it, correct?
Correct. I just want to see if I can find a couple close-ups for you, though, that we took, because I have photographs that you can't see anymore because we took them when the display was under construction, and so there's some angles that you just can't quite see anymore.
So Mike, what's that website, the Zaco Project?
Let's see here. It is.
If you can bring it up.
Yeah, I have it right here. It's Whoops. That ain't no good.
No, it's not good. You're just seeing Andy. That's the worst part of the show.
Here we go. How's that?
That's much better.
You see that?
Yeah.
www.zacohistory.com. Yep. And if you go, there's this really neat is the fact that they have these the black and white photos you were talking about, correct?
Well, these are black and white photos that we have that were actually taken in in 1960. And for the website's purposes, we use those. There were also two color photos that we had of the town from 49, or colorized, I should say, photos. That would be the smaller one you see there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really wish they would have included that.
But what's really neat is the fact that you went and numbered all the structures in the whole town.
Yeah, and then put them on the list so you could click on them.
And then you have them over here on the list to see what houses and what structures were where.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to find the top of the Radke. Is it the Radke garage? There we go. There's the FAA markings on there that you were just talking about.
Correct.
Is that in another window, Mike?
Geez, I hope not. It did. It popped up in another window. Every one of these pops up in a new window.
Okay.
Hold on a minute. There.
Nice.
So now you can see the FA. You see the town name, like he was saying. This is True North is actually indicated right here.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yep. And then what's the circle?
Circle is the landing spot. So 10 miles to the next airport or next landing spot.
Oh, cool.
And then that arrow pointed in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the model that Jim built of it.
No way.
Yep.
So this is just
something.
So Jim, how did you? So this you talked about. It looks like you got the round roof, and you can see that now, right on the.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, looks like the main building, and then there was an addition with, your typical, angled truss roof.
Yeah, apparently it was all supposed to be built at one point in time, but I could never get the full story. But it sounded like they had built the whole front, the whole facade.
Yeah.
And then it was the design had somehow changed. There was something that went, there was supposed to maybe be 2 businesses in there. And in the end, the other guy defaulted. And so it became all Radke's business. So, and at one point in time, there were actually gas pumps there before they put in a full gas station across the street.
Oh, and incredible. So then this is, this pretty prominent building for a tiny town in northeastern Wisconsin. So it looks like you have brick. Was it an entirely brick building? The facade looks like it's that brick that we talked about earlier, right?
Correct. Yeah. It's the whole Gate and Reynolds brick that I used. The whole building's exterior is brick.
Yeah.
The interior supports, though, are all these heavy wood beams. There is a cinder block wall in the middle that separates the two architectural styles. But other than that, it's the roof beams are all real heavy laminated beams.
So
that's such a cool building.
Yeah. So
it really is. I to be honest with you, I wish I could figure out a decent way to have kitted out that building, because it's just so neat.
So do you have pictures of that's the picture of the final build there on screen? Is that all plastic?
Yes.
Unbelievable. And in N scale.
Yes.
Wow.
Correct.
Right.
And all the windows across the front are all done with evergreen styrene strips.
Look at that. So this is, can you scroll down just a little bit, Mike? This is really cool. Can you do the control scroll wheel and see if that'll zoom in? Maybe not. That's okay. But basically so all of the trim work around the windows, all that done with just basically styrene. Correct. And then there you go. That's then scroll down and to the right. And then when we want to get you back to normal view, we'll do a control 0 to get you back. So this is the actual model. How did you get the paint on top of the roof?
The brush.
So you hand painted the Zaco and the in N scale.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just answering you honestly. I don't
no. That's fantastic. That's really, really cool.
It's almost as if we just saw Andy's brain stop for some reason.
My brain exploded. And that's
we access your account.
I just kind of felt like when they pulled the thing out of my nose in Total Recall, right? That was pretty much what happened to me.
Yeah, Andy crashed to Mars.
No, this is remarkable.
Thank you.
This is so that whole structure. So like for N scale, that's a pretty sizable structure, is it not?
Yeah, it's good size. It's a little bit bigger, say, than a notepad, like not a legal, but a letter size notepad.
Yeah, right. So that's a pretty. So did you do the interior as well?
I did a little bit of an interior, but interestingly enough, that side of the building, the front, faces away from the audience in the display.
Oh no!
Oh, nice.
And so this is one of the things that I insisted on. I said, if we're going to do this, I want to make sure that every detail is included. And Dean was like, absolutely, do whatever you got to do. He said, I said, I don't want to leave any just blank white faces on because, it's facing away from the crowd. We don't have to do that. I said, at some point in time, all of us are going to be gone. Whether the display is still here or not, I can't predict. But I said, I'd like somebody to be able to use this as like a historical snapshot, like it's like historical preservation in the form of modeling. And that's essentially what we went for. I mean, there's all kinds of things in that display that if they hadn't been photographed, you would never know they're there.
Unbelievable.
And that's what kind of made this, in so many ways, it was like a dream project.
Yeah.
And
so and basically when you met the fella, when you're out creeping around the dealership there, and he took you around, I mean, this is the fruit of that labor, right?
Correct.
Unbelievable. That's awesome.
How can I share? Can I share my screen?
Yeah, you can. So if you go down to the bottom,
let me stop sharing here.
And there's a thing that says present.
Yes.
Go ahead and click on that. And then you get the option to share your screen. And then if you want to share like a window or something, or like a website, just go ahead and click that, and I'll bring it up on screen.
Okay, I hit click share screen. Let's see.
So Tony Dixon says, I want that in S scale. A single arched roof would be almost identical to the dealership that was in, well, I'm going to junk this name up, Cloutier, Iowa.
I feel almost as if like a lot of car dealerships were like that at one point.
Yeah,
there were quite a few that were like that. Yes, and in fact, that style of false front was very common. I think there's actually one or two still up in Milwaukee, but they're no longer used as dealerships either. They're now like storefronts and just split storefronts.
So this is this the model?
This is the model as I installed it in the display. He always said there were car parts and stuff back there. So could we please show some of the junk that might have been there? There was like always a rusted out truck. There was one that needed work. There'd be the locals. So I went and in some cases I went and carved automobiles that didn't exist. So I took a chunk of styrene and I carved, was it like a 36 Cadillac that somebody had in town because I couldn't find a model of it. And so then I recast those and took some tires and put them on and all that kind of stuff. Like this black car here is a commercially available car. This was another one that came from, I forget the company that had the little resin car kits, but we put that together. This happened to be actually originally a John Deere tractor that I painted red.
Yeah.
But we had like a little, yard cart.
So you improved it then?
We tried.
What are you talking about?
I'm not a big JD fan.
I love John Deere. I bleed John Deere green. That's what I drove when I was a kid.
More of a close-up of that scene.
Wow, Jim. So that.
And here's another thing that's funny. This is called a catch box.
Yeah.
So on the back of the building, this big aluminum catch box was there, and I thought I've got to put that on the model because it's such a neat thing, and people will actually see this. So I had to model that. It's basically all the water runs down and goes into that catch box, so it doesn't wear out the brick on the back of the building, and then goes into the spout.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So
and here one other thing that I think you get a kick out of is because of the length of these Holgate and Reynolds sheets. Like I said, they're like 2.5 feet long, depending on how they were cut.
Yeah.
3 sides. The front is one piece, and the other 3 sides are all one piece. I was actually able to just gently heat this stuff and fold it.
Oh, cool!
To make a nice crisp corner without it splitting. I felt really blessed that worked out.
That's it. I'm out.
So Wigwag Workshop brings up a really good point. Remember, folks, this is an N scale.
Yes, it is.
So look, I just for those that will be catching this on the replay, we're looking at the back of an old car dealership, right? Mm-hmm. And so it has the concrete pad out back, and it's got grass growing through the expansion joints cut into the concrete. Like just if you were to see it on a hot summer day, in July in Wisconsin, where that stinking crabgrass just comes right out of those cracks.
Yes, absolutely.
Ask me how I know.
Yeah,
right?
I'm on a full-fledged war with that stuff.
Yeah,
right.
But then he's got the junk cars in the back, and there's just random car parts and clutter strewn about, and it truly looks like an authentic auto repair place that you would see in Wisconsin. And this was set in what was the setting for this model?
1949, summer of 1949.
So, summer of 1949.
Can I ask, and I don't want this question to sound facetious at all, Jim, because I know how meticulous you are with the level of detail that you put in.
Of course, I'm an Eklund driver. Yeah.
But did you actually, while you were out measuring these buildings, and I mean, we'll get into more of that here in a little bit, but when you were out doing that, like, I'm just looking at the placement of the trees. Did you look at, okay, I'm going to go over here and I've got this photo of this. Oh, this is this tree. This is this tree. This is this. I need this one, and this one. I need to measure from the building to the trunk. Did you actually go in that?
Well, the easiest way to answer that, and this is where you're going to think that there were at least 4 of us that were nuts. Besides Dean, who was the gentleman paying for the whole thing, and we'll get into that because this could be one of those, fireside chats till the sun starts coming up.
Sure.
But he said, look, he started out thinking this would be fun. And I believe it was like nearly $300,000 later, not on our part. There's a lot. We were the cheapest part of this whole project. He wanted it done right. And the more he talked with me and the more, because John Dornfeld was like, well, we'll do this, we'll do that. Maybe we'll get some kit houses. And he started watching what I was doing. And he said, I think I want everything exactly as it was. We'll keep searching and we'll keep working on it. And we got people in the town to go through their old family albums. And there's a picture of a gal that's coming home from college for Christmas. And it shows 2 sides of the family's garage that we had never seen before. We had no angle on it from that time period. And this photo was from like 1952. So it's give or take a couple of years. But we knew that it had a window now. And we also knew, what kind of garage door it had. And it may sound silly, but we kept building on these clues and finding things that helped us work out. So then one day when once Dean had gotten the Chicago Northwestern Standard No. 3 depot partially constructed, he took a USGS map of that particular square and had it blown up to 13 by 9 feet, which was the area that we were working in, and laid it out on the floor because he had it done by a sign shop that did it in vinyl. And he said, here's how our placement's going to be. And of course, on the USGS stuff, it's not like a Sanborn map. It doesn't go into that much detail, but it has squares for where there's structures on the ground. And so we knew what each square was. And we started looking at this and we're going, we can do this. We don't have to compress this. The only thing we compressed was we brought one farm in about 2 feet, because it's just a little further down the road. And I had already built the house and chicken coop and barn for it. And so we brought that into the corner. So we brought it in 2 feet, and instead of there being another little field, there's a farm there. But in terms of the tree placement, this is where I'm going to talk about the late, great Chris Comport, who those of you who've been in modeling a long time might know his name. He worked with Malcolm Furlow on occasion. The recently deceased, very excellent, skilled artist, Malcolm Furlow, and working with Chris was fantastic because Chris was nothing but a humble guy and very encouraging. And in the end, I was the one who put like the little trucks and stuff out. He did most of the landscape and scenery, and he hated it.
Oh, really?
Well, he was used to doing. Somebody would call up and say, I've got a space in my rec room. I would like a narrow gauge fantasy lumbering layout in HON3. And he would build these elaborate, $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 layouts by himself in his garage. And then he'd rent a truck and take it to them, deliver it to him. And his work was just gorgeous. You'd have like the really deep crevasse with a huge wooden trestle and the type of tracks that only a Shay could navigate.
Yeah, right.
And he'd build these beautiful layouts. In fact, I got to see one of them right before he shipped it, and I just said, "Oh, Chris," I said, "this is amazing." He said, "But Jim," he said, "this is me." He said, "I don't mind." I said, "I love working in fantasy like this because I can be my own creative energy." He said, "You are like a laser. It's like you look at these buildings and you know exactly what you're going to build them out of. You know exactly what needs to be done, and you can tell. He said, you're working in N scale, for crying out loud. He said, and you can tell that this needs to be shaved a little more, or that needs to be taken back a little bit. He said, I can't do that. This drives me nuts. He did this beautiful landscape. You know, he followed the USGS survey map that we had, so the elevations are all correct.
Yeah, right.
And he took the original photograph, and we tried to get the trees as accurate as possible. In one or two cases, we may have moved a tree over a little bit so you could see the model a little better of, say, a given house or farm. But for the most part, yeah, Mike, to answer your question, the trees, I wouldn't say we measured things, but give or take, say, half an inch, these trees are pretty accurate for the whole smash.
Wow, that's awesome.
So back up just a tiny bit. Dave Winther had a question. He says,
sure.
So what was the purpose for building this entire display?
Well, and I have my notes to tell you about that.
Ooh, nice work, Dave, on the segue. That was perfect.
Yeah, it was excellent. Got me to shut up about this stuff.
No. We're going to come back to this stuff. You're not done. You're not done yet. You're not done yet.
Apparently, Dean came home for a class reunion of some sorts, or something to that effect, and he was in a bar with his friend, and they were talking about how self-sustaining small American towns aren't a thing anymore. And you know, well, you live in Ripon,
right? And
there are plenty of places to eat, to buy groceries, maybe to buy furniture, to get your car fixed, to take your grain if you're a farmer, to buy some lumber, you know, entertainment, maybe a bowling alley, a swimming pool. Well, there was a time in this country where every town had everything you needed for daily life. I mean, perhaps maybe you had to go down to the next town to find a jewelry store, let's say, or something specific. You know, maybe you wanted to have a clock made, you needed a watchmaker, so you had to go over to, say, Bonduel or Shawano to find that. But for the most part, there was a store that was a grocery store. There was a store that was a department store. There was a tavern. There was a restaurant. There was a railroad. There was a depot. There was a feed mill. There was an oil business. There was a car dealership. There was a gas station. There were school teachers. There were, you know, preachers. There were farmers. There were draftsmen. All kinds of people who worked and lived in this town, and did their daily business here. And they didn't have to leave town, but maybe once every other month, because it was all there. And this is slowly dying. He said, there should be a way that we could do something to memorialize this. He said, before we're all gone. And he said, and so they were talking about this 1949 aerial photo that his dad had in the bank. I should have said bank too, was another one that they had in town. And Dean's dad was a banker. And so we're talking about this photo, and he said, you know, I wonder if we could find a way to like build this in N scale. So he went out and he bought a couple of house kits, and he bought himself some little N scale trains and started futtering around with it. And he said, you know, I can't do this. This is not who I am. And so he said, so he called John Dornfeld, and John does not like to work in N scale because it's small, and he prefers HO, and he really prefers working mostly on depots or specialty railroad structures. Not that that's not that John wouldn't do, you know, the project you'd want him to do, but for the most part, that's what he tended to lean towards. And John picks and chooses what he likes to do. The rest of them he sends over to me to deal with.
You're handling my light work.
But when he and I started talking at Train Fest, and we got rolling on this, we realized at the time that I'm not going to say what we got paid, because it was a pittance. Most people would go, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that." But we kept him on budget from our end.
Yeah, right.
I mean, the total cost of the model for all the buildings, all the structures, not the base, but all the structures, all the cars, all the people, because I painted, you know, several hundred people. I painted all these cars by hand. It came to, I think, like $13,000. And wow. That's pretty minimal considering every house was custom. Wow. But you know, You just like here's another shot of the town.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that awesome?
So this is a 13:9 for those just tuning in.
Yep. Diorama of the town in the freight section of a Chicago and Northwestern class 3
depot, right?
Small town depot. Yes.
Yeah. So this is outstanding. So this gives you a really good perspective. Now you could still go into a lot of mom and pop shops in rural Wisconsin and see pictures like this hanging on the wall.
Correct.
Like I know for a fact, just 5 miles down the road from good old Ripon, Wisconsin, we have a town called Rosendale, Wisconsin. Oh, look at that's a cool picture.
That's where my wife's from.
Yeah, good old Rosendale. And there's a hardware store in there. It's now a coffee shop. But
yes.
As I digress, they have an aerial photo much similar to the scene that we have here.
Right.
So this is really cool, Jim. So why don't you go take a minute? And so there's a couple of questions.
Sure.
So Otter Creek in Rio Grande says, so how many structures total were on the diorama?
Oh, I'd have to look at that list again for the number, but I want to say it was like...
It's a 36?
40?
I see 45, it looks like.
45
46.
properties. Yeah, 46 properties, and I think a total of like 81 buildings.
Wow. So this is and this is incredible. So it's basically just a 13:9 rectangle, is that right?
Correct. Yep. And
so can we go back to the piece there was some people standing in the middle of the display.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go ahead.
That's my daughter Kristen, who's this is 10 years ago, by the way, that we installed the display.
Yeah.
So
cool.
So so that's my daughter Kristen, and the one with his back to that's my son Peter.
Okay. So it was a whole family affair that kind of got involved with the building of this.
Well, during the final part of it, yeah, because they could
cool.
squeak in there easier than I could.
Sure. And
you had to crawl on your knees about 8 to 10 feet to get to the manhole there.
As Mike Rose would say, the dirty crawl, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is really cool. So you have is it just one road or is it two roads, like a junction here?
Well, this is two streets. This street kind of goes off into the woods.
Yep.
And this one goes down to the cheese and butter plant, the creamery down at the end of the road, and then you can see the depot right here behind Peter. Yeah. That's the main drag, if you will. And
sure.
then that continues off to where that farm is that I mentioned that we brought in. And hang on, let me.
With a little modeler's license. Oh,
and this
cool.
is County F that comes off of Highway 29. Because that's represented here in this top scene going up to the tracks.
Yeah. So let's just take so we're looking at the outskirts. We're looking at the outskirts of Zaco here, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Correct.
So basically, if we were to pan from left to right, we have looks like a little house there with the garage, the yellow one.
This here? Yes.
Yes. Way out there on the left. And then is that like a drainage ditch?
That's a creek.
It's a creek. Yeah,
it's a creek that I guess occasionally dries up in summer, but for the most part, it's just got I guess people used to fish in it. It was deep enough that there were some fish in it back in the day. I don't know if there still are. I never saw any fish myself, but there was enough of a flow there to keep it that you couldn't just walk over it. You had to jump.
Oh wow. And then there we go. Is that Peter there?
Mm-hmm.
God, he's grown up.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
This is back when I only had to give him a stern look. Now I got to shake a fist, you know?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Hope he doesn't shake right back.
So this is where we're kind of looking at the center of town here, if I'm not mistaken. So the depot is right by his left hand, the one that he must be holding some figures or skittles or
figures. Yep.
Yeah, right. And then so the depot's under his hand. You can see that's the auto dealer there on the lower left. And then what is that row of buildings that he's fiddling with there?
Well, this is a pickle factory. And this is the pickle warehouse. And this is This was the Chicago Northwestern Standard stock pen.
Really?
The railroad actually had a stock pen there. Yep.
Could you zoom in on that just a hair bear?
Well, let me see if I can find another. Hang on, let me just go through a couple of these quick, and then I'll find you some specifics.
As we pan through these pictures, this is fantastic, by the way, Jim.
Jim, I got another question for you.
Yes.
So in your endeavors in doing all of this, like I was just looking at the website while you guys were kind of looking at this, and one of the things that's kind of striking to me is that you found some actual photos of some of the homes,
mm-hmm.
but then the model looks like much like the home had been updated in the photo, and you had gone back and did you find enough photographs of the way things used to look?
Well, what we did in a lot of cases, there were still people around that had lived in these homes.
Mm.
Dean went and got us some testimonials from people because he knew them, so there was no issue of contact. You know, it wasn't like, hey, who's the stranger who wants to know about the house I grew up in.
Yeah, right.
But like back here behind Peter, this is the bank building, and then this was Dean's family's home. And so he knew about these properties for sure, you know. And I'm trying to remember now. Like in the case of this one here, this is a multiplex house, if you will. It always had like 4 different living spaces in it. It was never just one.
Is that the apartment? Is that the apartment building?
Yes. And a lot of people came out of the woodwork and found photos and told us things that had changed. We had one building that confused us because it was like, how can the staircase go here, here, and here? Well, it turns out the staircase at one point is only like about 16, 18 inches wide. But it was meant to be an apartment for a young person who was just working in town in the meantime. So they figured, you know, back then, we didn't worry so much about a few inconveniences to get where we had to go.
Wow.
I hand built this plow, by the way. That's all scratch built.
Styrene?
Yes. Well, and the discs I actually lasered. This I also made from scratch. We couldn't find at the time it was hard to find some of these things.
This is incredible.
Oh, yeah, and you'd asked about the one road going back into the woods. This house, everything still stands. There aren't that many modifications to a lot of these, or if there are, it's like they replaced an awning or they put new windows in.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering, is because the one house that I looked at had an open front porch to it, and then in the model, it's actually got windows on the front porch.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. You know, a lot of people would open those up. You know,
yeah, that's right. In summer, they'd take out the windows, and
the windows would come out in the summertime.
Correct.
So okay, there was one question from Otter Creek and Rio Grande, and I know we touched on it earlier, but he asks, was there compression applied, or is everything to scale?
Everything is to scale.
And that was
even this oil truck here. It's interesting. This house was owned by one of the Radkes that had the oil dealership, which is over back by the train here. But they, instead of building a special structure for that, he parked them on his property. And this garage had a very strongly reinforced concrete floor, so it could handle these oil trucks. Well, Dean said, I really like the oil trucks to look like the thing that we had back then, and there was no commercially available model. So I took the front of a semi truck, cut it off, made a mold, casted the cab, and I found a tank that was close. I had to cut it down and sand it and fiddle around with it, but I finally got an exact replica of what the oil trucks looked like back then.
Wow.
And so we could match that.
That's incredible.
This road here would be County F.
So this is a really cool shot too, because this is the what are they, people that have used fancy words, quintessential Wisconsin county road scene, right? You got your farmer, in a couple of cars, the gravel driveways set back, from the road, and then the ditch on either side of the county road with, the bramble and, awfulness in it. If you go chasing rabbits down there. And so Dwight at Northern Star says, well, I'm quitting doing any landscaping.
Yeah, Chris did a great job. I just helped him along the way with certain parts of it. He said it's going to be up to you to put in a few of the driveways and people and put the cars in. And Dean actually, like in this case here, I found a Model A Ford, and he said that family had an old Ford car. They always had Ford cars. So I'd like to see a Ford car, an older Ford car going into that. I said, okay, we can do that. He said, and I also want to see some horse wagons, because we did have those. A lot of the farms still used horses back in 49.
So what's the deal? So Dwight says no mailboxes? ?
Well, a lot of them were slits in the door or front porch mailboxes, I guess.
That's right, because we have give some people some context. The house that I live in was built in 1880 something or other. The only thing that's changed on it's the vinyl siding, right? But we, there's pictures of it from the 30s and 40s. In our front porch, we had ye old the front door slit in the front, and that weird doorbell where you twist it to make it ring. Yeah.
There's the stock pen you'd asked for a close-up of earlier.
Yeah, awesome. This is another cool shot.
I'll see if I have one, but I built the stock pen according to the Northwestern standard rules, because we had the valuation file on it, and it told what it was. So I had a diagram for it. So I built myself a little template, and then I made all the fences strip by strip of evergreen styrene, so it looks like a real post fence.
That's amazing.
And same thing with the cattle chute.
So does the layout itself operate?
Well, that was part of our original thought, was to have the trains running and then going behind it, but the space turned out to be too limited for that. And we had concerns about what happens if it jumps the track, it overheats, all of a sudden you've got a fire, you've got, when you have running electrical. So what we decided to do instead is the track is essentially dead. That way we also didn't have to worry about somebody coming in to clean it, because the windows that are in this are like an inch thick for the display windows.
Oh.
Yeah, this is like I said, this
is all behind glass?
This is all behind glass.
Oh wow.
And that way you kept the dust out, and you could control the temperature to prevent warping and things like that. So we figured it was good enough to have a mixed freight and say like the Flambeau coming through town as a streamliner.
Yeah. The Flambeau 400, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Man, this podcast has been the worst thing for me. Seriously, having all these, fantastic modelers on here sharing, and now it's like, God, I want to do this, I want to do that. It just, I'm having flashbacks of do I do the Ripon scene now and all that, but that's a whole other show that we're going to talk about.
And here we are cleaning up a little portion of the outside of it because we had some pink that was showing through.
Yeah. Wow. So
in total, Jim.
Yeah.
Best guess. How many hours of modeling did you have? Do you have invested in this?
Good question.
Like legitimately. I mean, because to
no
me this has got to be thousands of hours, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is the part where I hope I don't get too weepy. You get involved in a thing like this, and the first building or that you build that's exact, and you try to get it as close as you can to the real thing, so that somebody looks at it and says, wow, it looks like the real thing. And you don't do it out of some sort of arrogance or pride or ego trip. You just do it because you want to do the best job you can. And it starts to become a part of you. And you start to get involved in it to a point where you start to forget the hours. There's the hours I build for, and then there's probably the 4 to 5 to 10 times as many hours as I stuck into research, development. I mean, like these windows you see here for the factory, that's lasered acetate that I then painted with a fine brush, and then took another one so that it looked like open factory windows. This is a pattern I lasered. Oh shoot, sorry. For the glass block windows, and then of course painted a little portion of them. But I made sure that the windows were all the exact size. You put so much of this into this after a while that you start to forget even about the paycheck so much as you do about just walking away from it as a point of pride that you accomplished this. And when we did the dedication, I think the biggest payoff was standing in that freight room in the back corner. And my folks had never been happy with me modeling for money because they think it's a silly thing. But it was a point of pride to stand there and watch these people come in, either with walkers, one gentleman in a wheelchair who actually made the effort to stand up to look. And they start crying and saying, my God, it looks just like I remember it. And he said, that's got to be me on my scooter or me on my bicycle. Or look, there we are playing baseball. Remember when we used to do that on Saturday nights? We'd all play baseball and the whole town would show up. And when it came to hours, to be honest with you, Mike, I don't know. I would look at my bill for the hours I put into a structure, and then I would take about a third of them off, and then I would build in.
Right.
And that was the hours I counted at the table. That didn't include trips up there.
Yeah.
The gasoline, having to stop and get lunch. But and I didn't know if I was going to say this or not, but I think it bears saying on a project like this. At the time I was watching a bunch of NASA documentaries, and the fellow who was in charge of the launch pads down in Florida, his name was Rocco Petrone, and he was talking with one of the astronauts and said, for all of us, he said, I don't think there's going to be another Apollo in our lifetimes. And it didn't mean that there would be another big program. He said, I don't think there'll ever be another Apollo in anyone's life. Meaning that for each person, it meant what it meant. But it brought all these people together in such a way that it'll probably never happen again. And we had a very small team doing this. I mean, there was only 4 or 5 of us involved total over the course of the whole thing. Chris, myself, John, Dean, and obviously my children once in a while would chip in with little things like gluing people in place. But Dean and I went out to lunch one day. It was just he and I told him that story about Apollo. And I said, I was only in my 40s at the time, and I said, Dean, I don't think there'll ever be another Zaco.
Yeah.
In any of our lives. And he looked at me and he brought that up at the dedication. And like I said, the payoff was watching all these people walk in.
It's such an incredible endeavor to that to see. I mean, you could drive through this town today and see these same houses and see these same buildings and see this. I mean, it's almost like it's almost like time stood still and it stood still.
Well, I'm glad we did it when we did, because it turns out a mere like 3 or 4 years ago, that Radke dealership burned to the ground.
Yeah.
And it's gone. I mean, you couldn't walk up to it.
That's the one with the stuff on the roof, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And now let's get back to being funny for a minute. I can't so much but you see, this house here, what's kind of funny, and I don't want to give anything away. There was a woman there who was a parole officer, I guess, at the time, and they ask you to work to live in a different city than where you work for obvious reasons, because you don't want people coming to your home trying to be involved with the criminal justice system in your off hours. So we were walking up to ring the front doorbell to ask if we could take a couple pictures, because this still had the metal roof on it that it had back in 49. And this lady is out working in her garden. And as we're walking up, we had what I call our Blues Brothers moment.
Oh, good.
We walked up and she says, "Are you the police?" "No, ma'am, we're modelers." And she was very nervous because she didn't know who we were. And so we had a couple of moments like that. We had one lady who kept closing her curtains, and then like you'd see the curtains open enough for her head to come out.
Yep.
It's like, lady, we're not like doing nude photos out in your field here or something, for crying out loud. It's we're just taking some pictures of the houses, and we got permission from people, and like I said, there was one guy who was buying up some of the properties as they were being sold off by older people who weren't interested anymore, and I guess he had a kind of a private goal of owning half the town or something, and turning them into rental properties. But he was not real friendly to us, but he did allow us to walk and take pictures that we needed to complete some things. But yeah, so here, this is kind of interesting. This is another one of the manholes. This would be like you were standing right next to the trestle, looking back at the town. And I said, there's what was so neat about it is that we got to take some of these shots before we locked up the display, that we might not normally have been able to do, ground level shots like this that could display some of the work that we had done.
Oh, cool. It's like an oil dealer there.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Feed mill.
And that trestle I built stick for stick, by the way.
Oh,
good
man.
God.
Yeah, I know.
I have the Chicago Northwestern bridges and building standard too, and to make all the bents and scale bents with all that. That is incredible.
Well, this one of the interesting things that came out of this is John made a kit out of this Radke dealership, because this style of gas station was actually quite popular. It came as a kit. It was like, I think 16 pallets, like 8 pallets of brick, and then a pallet of windows, a pallet of gas pumps, and the interior stuff. And these were very popular all over the place. One of these still stands in Gibbsville, Wisconsin. There's actually, I've seen them all over the place. You can, if you know what you're looking for, you'll see them. Some of them have been re-roofed differently, or some of them have been closed in a little bit, but there are a lot of them that are still around.
Yeah, they got one in Door County as well, in Ellison Bay.
Okay.
Yeah. And Dave Winter says one of those gas stations is in Pulaski.
Yes. Okay. I think I was trying to think of which town it was up there. Here's Peter, up Periscope.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can. Oh, now we're getting into individual photographs here. Let me just take a look at the folder here one more time, because there's a couple that bear review. I just got to find them.
Yeah. So, I have a note here, Jim, that I have to ask you about the groceries.
Okay. I'll try to find that quick.
So there's, and I'll let you tell the story, but I just want to take a second, Jim, to thank you for going through this with us tonight and sharing your story here, because first of all, it's an amazing story. by its rights, but it's also it's really cool to really get an understanding of the depth and the research and essentially what you went through to construct such an amazing diorama impeccable detail.
Entire town.
Made an entire town.
Yeah, I know.
Who does that?
And I mean, yeah.
I think I wish I had $1 for every time I've been asked that. I could probably buy a really nice steak dinner by now. It's a good question, and I hate to say that I don't know that I don't think Dornfeld really thought the guy was going to go through with this. I think what Dornfeld did, and this is funny, he built one or two things, and then actually the guy, here's the truth of it. He had on a shelf in the display case is a model of the Green Bay Depot, and I built the model of the Shawano Depot.
So that was the thing that's floating in the sky.
Correct.
Okay.
On
So
one end is Shawano, and on
right.
the other end is Green Bay.
Okay.
And so what Dean did is he had John build the Green Bay Depot as a test to see if this guy was good enough to do it. So John did that, and he said, "Okay, well, here's what I'd like to do." And John said, "I think you're nuts." But John actually confidentially said to me a couple of times, he can't. Is he serious? I mean, are we really? He looked at me and said, "Are you really willing to build all these houses from scratch?" I said, "Well, why don't we?" I said, "He's willing to pay." And I said, "It's not like we're fleecing the guy. We're working with him."
Right.
And it's not like we're sitting here, robbing some poor old guy blind. He knew what he was doing. He was just recently retired, and he had some wealth to work with. And it's everybody just worked together. I think John just really did not want to look forward to that many pieces of N scale to be had. But here, if I can share again, let me see if I can.
Yeah, do the sharing, and we'll pull that up.
Are you able to? Are you still able to go and see this today? Is it still in?
Yes, it is. It is like a public structure? The biggest draw. It's like the biggest draw in the Shawano County Historical Society grounds.
Oh, nice.
So this is this particular home. Dean said always had a log pile, split logs. He said, "I'd like somebody out there splitting logs." He said, "So can we find like a plastic pile of logs?" I said, "Have you seen what plastic piles of logs look like in N scale?
Yeah, they look like
an
dog
HO scale dog took a crap." So I proceeded to make. These are toothpicks that I painted on the outside, and then cut into small sections and split. So don't anybody ever tell me I haven't gone to the extra mile. I actually built a guy, and I built a two-handed axe to go with this for the display.
Unbelievable.
Here's that Green Bay Depot.
Yep. Which is beautiful by its own right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and in N scale. And I've seen the HO scale version of that. Justin Hendrickson built one of those.
Yes.
It looks amazing.
So here's the groceries, and I think I have a closer up shot, but let's just use this one for now because this picture has so much in it that's comical. This car here is a commercially available car. This was one I had to assemble from a resin kit and paint. So Dean says to me, he says, that used to be an old style sign that hung by the pub. And I said, "Oh, okay. So you want a hanging old style sign like they used to do?" He said, "Well, can you do that?" I said, "Well, yeah, I can do it. Let me take a look and see what I got to do." So I made the sign so that it actually does free swing. If you hit it, it'll swing back and forth and like it's in the wind. The other thing he said was, a lot of pubs had this sign that was like black with like glittery gold on it that said beer.
Yes. Yep.
And I found a photo of one, and I printed it, and I cut it out with a razor blade, and I put it on there, and he said, "Oh my God, you got the beer sign."
That looks exactly like the bar that my Uncle Dickie had in Princeton.
Oh, really?
It's uncanny with the brick front and then the apartments above it.
The little awning over the door.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's exactly like Irma's in Princeton.
And so this, and Keenway was a supplier, much the way like Roundy's or Kroger Foods is. And I found an advertisement in an old Green Bay paper, and I scanned that in and made the sign, photoshopped the sign out of that. And with the bank too, this is all layered styrene for those, the layered brick as they go down, like a brick corbels kind of.
Yeah.
And so about the groceries. So I said, one scene that's common in the country is for a teenage boy to be helping a lady take the groceries out to her car, right? Well, when you get close enough to this car, you can tell it was a resin kit. So I took a Dremel with a bit on it, and I drilled out the back of the car to make a trunk. Then I made some grocery bags out of strip styrene, and had him modified a figure to be holding one of them, and then two of them in the trunk. And then I made the trunk lid out of sheet styrene so that it looked real. So make your checks payable to Jim Rentz Psychological Fund.
So this is incredible. So this N scale car. So I'm holding an HO scale Gremlin in my hand right now. So let's basically reduce that by half, and then let's mill out the back of it and make paper frickin' bags in the trunk. You know what? David Winter's right.
Do you like that I gave the car white walls?
Yeah. David Winter is right. What? No celery sticking out of the top of the bag?
Yeah. See.
Okay. Here's where it gets weird. I thought about doing that just to be cocky, but I stopped.
Unbelievable, Jim.
This is wow.
So
you just man.
So I want to throw it out to the section crew that's with us tonight. So Jim's got a lot of experience here with structure building, and making some fantastic detailed parts or detailed structures in N scale HO. If you have any questions for him about some of his techniques on how he goes about, basically building something from absolutely nothing, throw him out in the chat. We'll get him up there so that, he can share some of his goodness with you all as we go through these other photos of Zaco here and the diorama that he built, which is just remarkable, by the way.
This is before I put the final junk in. This is,
yeah.
We kept taking pictures. Oh, and Dean said, well, the section house that's there is for the section crew. So he said, we're going to need the little section buildings that go along with it. So I did those, which I turned into a kit in N scale. So that was my kit out of the thing. But he said they always had a scooter for the crew. He said, is there anything like that? I said, well, you can get one with a cover on it. He said, no. He said, this one had sticks in it so the guys could pick it up, one guy on each side, 4 guys, they could pick it up and they could just make it run, and it had a little radiator on the front. So I found a picture.
Yeah.
And I built this from scratch.
So can we just kind of unpack this? So there's 2 things I want to touch on. One, it's the glass block windows.
Okay.
In the previous picture.
Mm-hmm.
How did you do that? There was a picture, it looked like that one. Yes. So this is N scale.
I laser it.
Okay.
I take in this case, I used something thinner, but now I use a 20 thousandths thick clear plastic, and I laser the pattern onto it, and it comes out looking amazingly like glass brick. You just, I have to tell you though, it takes some time and test to get to that place where it looks like glass brick and not like a nuclear holocaust just burned the windows out of your house.
Yeah, right. So is that achievable with like an X-Acto blade, like the backside of a number 11? Could you do it with that? Or for N scale, is that too big?
I guess it depends how much you want to bleed.
Yeah, I mean, I love model railroading.
I'm not trying to sound cocky either. It's just I was so thankful that I had the laser for things like that. I mean, I didn't laser hardly any of these things except for specialty windows.
Sure.
A couple of the garage door type things I did, but there are no structures on this that were entirely lasered. Yeah. I mean, now I do that occasionally if it calls for it, but here we've got a couple of guys loading cheese, butter boxes for going into these trucks, and since there was a photo that had some of these trucks there and how they actually took the coolers off and set them on the property like that. Apparently, I don't understand what the process was, but that's what they did.
Really?
And so I created this from scratch, put the bead around it with 10,000 rod styrene or something like that, and then cast those, and then cast the truck parts and put them together so that we had exactly the trucks that would have been used at that time. This is a return chute for milk cans. So there's like 36 milk cans on the front of this thing that I had to cast once I got a hold of a metal milk can that I could actually use.
So with your builds here,
yes.
And Dwight at Northern Star has a question. Says, do you reinforce the corners of your buildings?
Yeah, some of them I do. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then there was one other question. If we could go back to the cart, the little
this here, sure.
Yeah, that little guy. So I know that's it's not a massive detail, but so like, what was the process? You talked about finding a picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you translate the picture to, I guess, the start of building a scale model? Because I think that's like the biggest stumbling block, right? It's like, oh, I love that building, or I love that structure,
yeah,
or I love that thing. How do you go from seeing a picture to actually start being able to construct a model of it in scratch building?
I'm a fellow with ADD. I got to throw that out there just so I'm very honest about it. There are times I have spent half a day staring at blank styrene, and it's like nothing comes. And then all of a sudden, snap, I know what I can do. I could try this. And it's once you put the knife, on the plastic, or once you start sketching something, the process begins. Mm-hmm. And what I found out, and I was raised that you did everything right the first time or you were a fool. Yeah. And so one of the things, I'm not trying to sound weird, but a lot of people talk about model railroading. It's like therapy or a way to blow off steam, etc. Mm-hmm. And for me, I learned a lot about myself doing this. I learned that some mistakes that were made in my childhood don't need to be reviewed. Be done with it, move on. And I hate to say that came out while doing this, but it did, because you can't always do everything perfect the first time. And in fact, one house, and this never, I don't know that this ever would have happened. I started building it, and then we took a trip up there to, I should mention my friend Mark Duco in this too, because he deserves some mention. He went up with us a couple times to help measure buildings, because it's always nice to have one person that can write and two people to measure, because it's just that much easier. And we happened to be up there on a day in which they were re-siding this old wooden house. And in the course of doing that, you could see markings where there had been a porch before. And we talked with the owners, and he said, oh yeah, that porch only came off like 5 years ago. Well, we would never have known that, because this was one of those sides where we didn't have a photograph. But lo and behold, God blessed us that particular day, and the sun shined, and there were these markings in the tar paper and in the old wood where this porch had been. And now, because the angles that were up there, we knew the angle of the porch.
Sure.
And the owner came out and talked with us for a good half hour. He said, "Oh yeah, please feel free to walk around the house." He said, "If you got to measure something, it's fine." He said, just don't be looking in our windows." I said, "Oh, no. I said, I'm here today. I just want to take a walk around." Yeah. I said, "So I have something to refer to." And he said, no problem. And so it was just one of these odd situations that very serendipitously led to a more knowledge, if you will.
Yeah, right.
And we learned a lot. And so I was like, what I thought was 3/4 done with this house, and I had to scrap it and start over. I still have the model. Yeah. And maybe I'll toss it on a layout someday. It's just a background house, but I didn't charge for that. I mean, it was one of those things where
so
you start over again.
Yeah, you just essentially you just kind of winged it, right? Or you went in with a sketch, or you started carving some stuff up, and then it didn't turn out the way you really wanted it to be. So you learned from it and you started over.
Yeah,
and you did it again. And I think, and I don't mean to liken, to some of the other guests that we've had on, but like Boomer talks about fail forward, right? Or, Mike Rose just says, go out and do it, and try it. And I think that's a theme, that a lot of modelers, that you can get past this stumbling block if you actually just try it and get out of your own head and do it.
And I had to stop hating myself for when I didn't make it perfect every time, right, the first time.
Yep.
And so that was something that came out of it. It was in the long run. I didn't realize that at the time that's what was happening, but that's what was happening.
Yeah,
and I'm pleased for it now.
That's really cool. Thanks for walking us through that.
Yeah.
So Ralph,
I got to show you this before I forget, in case I can't find the other photograph. They talked about people would fish in the creek, so I had to put a fisherman out there with a pole.
Yeah.
And I thought this was just something to make a point of that. I made sure that there was a fisherman in the creek.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
I love those little details, right? Because I mean, it's basically just life.
Yes.
You're modeling life happening on this diorama.
Yeah. Oh, and one other thing, if I can't find the other photo, this is another one where there's a young man loading bags of seed for an older gentleman in the back of his truck.
Because
I had to carve out. This was another one of those where I had to grind out the back of the panel van to make this happen.
Yep. Because that's what you do.
Yeah.
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 That's amazing.
There.
Absolutely love this. Oh, there you go. So the door's open.
Yeah, and the door was made from scratch to go on there, and
he's not trying to shimmy it through the broken window in the back.
No.
You did it the right way and took your time, and that's fantastic. That's really cool scene.
I should say John Dornfeld built this feed mill, and this was another one of those things that he was frustrated. He was at a point of frustration. He says, "Jim, I don't know how these." He said, "My math is not connecting right," because Dean had a friend who was an architect who lived in somewhere on the East Coast, but he remembered all this stuff, and so they contact each other back and forth, and occasionally for like a big thing like this, the guy would draw architectural plans as best he remembered. So we worked off of that, but there were some places where it was wrong, and we went in there one day and they had this door open. We asked, could we just look around a bit? And we went in and we discovered that the roof of one section had 16-inch spacing on its rafters. And then the next section had 24 inches.
Ooh,
so it explained why the numbers weren't working out for stepping it off, if you will.
Yeah.
And so we went in and we also were wondering, what color would this have been, because it now has like white vinyl siding all over it or paint or whatever. And
yeah, right.
Lo and behold, on the inside was the original color was painted on some beams that were only exposed when they were remodeling it.
Ugh.
And it was another one of those things where you're like, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
That's just stupid lucky to be able to find something like that, right?
It's pure serendipity.
Yeah, it's just wow.
Bank. Oh, there's my trestle. Wow.
That's the house right there, Jim. That one right there. That's the one that I had seen the picture where the windows, the porch was open.
Yes.
And now it's modeled.
This was the one that was fudged a little bit. It's actually John built the house around the size of the windows rather than to scale. He would hate me for telling
you gotta make it look right though, right?
But he didn't want to have to go through the trouble of making his own windows and all that. So I understood that. Let me see if I can find. I'll have to break here for a minute. I got to find one more thing to show you in terms of some of these houses.
This is making my day. And inspiring, that's for sure.
If this, and forgive my language for a minute, I'll keep it family friendly, but if there was one MFer of a house, of a roof, this would be it.
Oh my gosh.
I don't understand what you're talking about, Jim.
So you got the hip roof.
Standard to me.
And then you got the regular rafter roof. And then you got this weird.
It's almost like a turret type of thing.
It's like,
yeah.
It's sort of like if your kids were to ask you about that, you go, well, honey, you understand when a barn and a house love each other.
Yep. And then
I swear to you, I heard dueling banjos playing as I'm walking around this thing because I'm looking at this going, oh my God.
Andy, that porch looks like your porch.
Yeah, so that the roof line almost looks like mine where the dormers that from the hip roof there come out from the long piece. My house just has regular angled dormers. It has no weird barn octagon mess going on, but yeah,
gotcha.
It's essentially the same style of house.
Yeah, and this one was John looked at me. I said, "Did you want to do this one?" And I think that was the first time I ever heard him say the F word. He said, "F no."
Yeah.
And we actually met the people that own the house and talked with them, and they were very, very nice. It allowed us to walk around and take some photos. And the only compromise we made here was that on the backside there was a dip in the hillside, which I think Chris just, because of where this was located, you weren't going to see it anyway. So he just shored up underneath the stone foundation instead of having the stone come down in the back another 2 or 3 feet for the rear corner of the house. But this was here's another one that we did.
Yeah,
I did, I should say.
That's so cool.
Oh yeah, here's me making the wood pile.
Oh jeez.
Unbelievable. That's
wow.
So first of all, thank you for sharing, Jim. That was super cool. And it goes to show that even in N scale, you can have an incredible level of detail on your models.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. And I mean, granted, you put a lot of time into it, and that's what it is. But I absolutely just love that, you went through and did all the detail to basically bring a whole town to life in N scale.
I'm going to I'll stop sharing photos, but I just wanted to show you these last two. Like I said, we had a little time to play before we put the display together, before we closed it out. And so I tried to recreate, almost the sort of brochure cover you would have seen like for the Northwoods Fisherman Train.
Oh, that's a cool idea. Yeah.
And so I've posted this in modeling groups many times, and I've had people say, "Where the heck did you get a color shot like that? That's unbelievable." I said, "It's a model." Said, no, that's not. I said, "No, it's a model."
Yeah.
But wow. This was one of my favorites. This really turned out neat.
That's the cover photo on your website, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
On Renz Relics.
Correct.
It's beautiful.
Before and after.
Yeah, right. Yeah, excellent. So before we carry on to the next segment here, because we are going to do what's on our workbench this evening. I know we're getting close to almost 2.5 hours in. But if you do have questions for Jim about Renz Relics while you're here, or anything they did with the Zaco display, please get them into the chat and make sure that you share them with us, so that way Jim can answer any questions that you may have. But without further dilly-dallying, I think it's time to take another commercial break here. We'll cue up the Greasy Meat Hands Band. I think we're going to move on to our next segment.
Very good. Thank you for having me. This has been a wonderful time.
Yeah, it's been really, really fun. All right, section crew, it is now time for What's on Your Workbench. That's where we have folks out in the Facebook group, second section podcast, Facebook group, post what they've been working on and pictures of their workbench and what's all been going on. And then at the end of it, we tag the dubious honor of the workbench of the week. So we have special guest referee Jim Rindt here with us tonight, weighing in on all of what's going on. So I'll see if I can get, oh my gosh, the internet is slow here in Ripon tonight. But what we'll do is we'll queue up the Facebook group. I'll give her one final refresh here. I'm going to shine it up real nice. And then we'll go ahead and share what's on screen. So again, you go out to our Facebook group, and out there we have the What's on Your Workbench. So I'll start to show off. I have a disaster on my workbench / spray booth. It is looking pretty rough, but we need to clean it up there and get some projects off of there. So let's see what the section crew's been working on. Let's see here. I'll X out of this. And this is also a good time for Andy to practice his public reading. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to say the least. So we have Andy Panett here. Still have my micro layout on mine on his workbench. Very much work in progress still, as I can't get certain things I need here in the UK. Well, it still looks like it's coming along pretty good there, Andy. Maybe hopefully with some of the skills we learned tonight about scratch building, you can possibly fashion some of your own things, or reach out to some modelers. Maybe they have some extra stuff lying around.
Yeah, I know a guy.
Yeah, you do, don't you? Matt Forkham. My workbench is a scenery cart at the moment.
Neat. Nothing wrong with that.
And that's a very tidy scenery cart, I will say. Right. But I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing Matt's progress on his Medellin Falls Railroad. I think he's got a nice YouTube channel out there too. So make sure you check him out. Mike Shanky, got my WSOR 4013 on the bench, going to install the sunshades to match the prototype. On my other bench, I set up my programming track that I can use with JMRI. Now, that's a hot bench you have there, Mike.
Yeah, it is.
I was going to say, who uses a fireplace for a workbench?
It's a hot bench.
Oh,
right?
Man.
Yeah, but that's awesome that you're utilizing more space here. I really do like this oak. I've always comment every time I see Mike's workbench here. I love this oak furniture here. And then he's got do I see taco sauce in the background there? Of course I do. Good luck, Mike, on the sunshades. I've broken off more sunshades off of locomotives in my time than most people with my greasy meat hands. All right, let's see here. Tony Dixon. I know Tony's got quite a few picks tonight, but not really on the workbench, but a new set of end plates for the PRS S-Scale ACF hopper. Oh, looks like he's designing up some 3D printing fun here. Oh, there he is. Yep, look at that.
That
printed out. Looking good, Tony. Got another one here. Nice profile shot. Those
look good.
Those look really good, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
The brake wheels look real nice. Nice. Paul Cassard joins us this evening working on my first scratch-built project based on Boomer's warehouse project. Really pleased with the results so far, but still need to add details, etc. Well, that is looking outstanding.
That looks awesome.
It looks really good, like one of those beautiful prefab warehouses with the concrete panels. That's looking good.
Wait till you start painting it. That's gonna be so fun.
You're gonna and all the other little details. I can't wait to see how this turns out, Paul.
Yeah, with the fence, that's fantastic and everything.
This one here, right in the foreground.
Yeah.
So he's got like a tank car unloading platform here too, if I'm not mistaken. Says Captain Obvious. All right, Ian Boone currently doing a lot of N-scale scratch building. Oh,
go N-scale
discussion this evening,
right?
For my turn of the century town. This little building is what's currently in process.
That is really slick.
Boy, we still have a couple of those floating around downtown Ripon.
There's a couple in Green Bay yet.
Yeah. Do they call those things like pilasters?
Pilasters, yeah.
Yeah, pilasters. That's cool. Well done, Ian. And then he has a sub comment here. Also clean my workspace. I don't know why you do that. Don't be fooled. It's never been this neat or this clean and neat before. Well,
desk.
It's a really cool desk.
Yeah.
I don't care about the workspace. That desk is awesome.
Well done. All right, let's carry on here. Tony Dixon with another entry tonight. So we're doing S-scale Plymouth switch locomotives.
Nice.
I like what he did with the white one there with the Plymouth lettering. I like that touch. That's cool. Look at this. Tony's going to get some points here for the taco sauce, the Tamiya panel line accent wash in the background, but it's got them coupled up here together. It's looking good. It's the front end. Or actually the rear probably, right?
Yeah.
And then looks like we got something in works here.
Look at that.
Very cool.
Huh.
There's a profile 3/4 shot. That looks good too. And that's an S scale. Nice work, Tony. All right, let's see here. Oh, here we go. Robert Pettit, Atlas, Green Bay and Western Alco C424 stroke 5, installing a TCS WOW 121 decoder FYI. The new Silver Series now includes a speaker. So the new Atlas is including speakers? Cool. Took longer to program than install. Been there, man.
Yeah, right.
Been there. That looks cool. I do love a good Green Bay and Western locomotive.
Absolutely.
John Whithouse, not a whole lot being accomplished the past few days. Been turning and burning on the CP since the Twin Cities Modelers Retreat, which Mike will at some point, maybe next show, we'll have to get a full report on.
Oh, yeah.
But I did finish cosmetically Minnesota Commercial number 80 before the retreat.
Nice.
Just a little heads up. John gave a really nice presentation on how he did that engine and stuff like that. It was really cool.
Looks like there's been some progress on the Kara Terminal Railway too, making a yard and an interchange. Cool. That's a cool picture of the number 80 locomotive there, John.
Absolutely.
All right, Dan Pugach, giving my bicycle some new tires. What? That's an awesome use of your modeling space there to put tires on your bike. Some fancy brakes for that tire or for that bike.
Wow. Yeah, I got nothing.
I got nothing. This one is high in the running for Workbench of the Week.
That's end scale.
That's end scale.
Yeah.
All right, Brad Lobrecht. This is a Foss kit. Hey, it must be plaster. Is that plaster? Let us know what that's made out of.
Can't quite tell.
All right, John Garvin, here we go. Yesterday, I acquired a Rapido RS-18, comparing her to my reference material included in some shots I took in 1985. I was very lucky to be present trackside at Medonte. I will go with Medonte to receive a cab ride to Utah and back with a string of air dumps. Good memories, good photos, and reference books can really improve your modeling. That's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Pictures and books can really, really help.
I have so many books. I know that my house will never blow away in a tornado.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
I'm starting a collection. Here we go. Andrew DK finishing up a Rail Pro install. Just have to put it all back together and working on a small diorama and playing around with overweighting cars. One of my favorite pastimes is adding too much weight to cars. I love that. I do like got multiple projects here on the bench. It's a great utilization of the space. Got all sorts of materials here. And there he is, playing around with some cars. Nice. All right. Let's see who else we have here. Paul Scott August. Woodland Scenic Sawmill, and added a scene to the layout.
Nice.
He's also been doing some boomer trees as well.
Look at that.
Paul's got a nice layout brewing of Mondovi on the C&W. Currently building some pickle vats at the bench.
Oh, look at that.
I like the pickle vats.
I can almost smell the dill.
Yeah, right?
Oh, man.
Remember the company Olfactory Airs?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Every time I brought that up, some people look at me like I'm nuts.
But they used to make the smells in the bottle, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, like they'd make creosote, or they'd make whatever smell.
And they actually had different types of dung for the different animals.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's
I'm not joking.
Kidding. No,
you had
no
one that
kidding.
was pig poop, cattle poop, and I think was it sheep
Goose
poop or something like.
Didn't they have
I'm
goose
like,
poop
holy
or something like that?
Man.
Talk about immersion.
Oh, it was crazy. Yeah, and he had, like you said, they had creosote, they had crude oil, they had gasoline. Because that's all you need to do is have a bunch of friends over and let them smell gas in your basement. You know,
they had if I remember, they had the smell of malt being malted, like barley being malted. They had that.
That
they
I can
had
see, actually.
I want to say they had something like
I just like beer,
50 or 60 different scents, right?
Yeah. There was a huge. It took a whole back page of Model Railroader for it.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
I was cutting up articles out of a bunch of old Model Railroaders, and I actually saved one of their ads solely for the purpose of saying, "Look, I'm not lying. Here it is."
Yeah, Olfactory Airs was the name of the company.
Oh my gosh. Back to the workbench. Peter Moyle, on my portable workbench, I'm working on refurbishing cars I got from an estate sale. I have about 50 left to do. I'm also working on an SD45 shell for one of my Kato locomotives. Cool. Oh, is that a high nose?
Yeah.
SD45. Nice. Very clean workbench. Very tidy. Here we go. Greg Gay. USA trains G-scale box card to be used as a donation bucket for our clubs. The Torrington area model railroaders. And that's for their open house on April 15th in Torrington, Connecticut. So a little hashtag not sponsored there. Is that Voltron on
it
the
is
left-hand
Voltron
side. That
on the
wins.
left.
That wins.
Yeah, you can't really beat that with a stick, can you?
Amazing.
Wow.
I mean, look at this is a weathered workbench. This one has seen better days. That's for sure. Look at he's busting out. There's Flow Quill 10x7. All the bad things for you.
Everything you always wanted in a beer and less.
Yeah, right. Like his workbench might be a super fun site.
Greg, we have one question. Are you a smoker? Because damn.
Yeah, this one is high in the running for workbench of the week. I think he has Voltron there just to make sure that
now you got me thinking. You
fire.
said super site, and I'm thinking to myself, if you wanted to fund a model railroad,
kidding.
And you could take some soil samples out of your bench like this.
Yeah.
You might get $1.5 million to fix the soil, I mean,
there's I don't know, there's got to be some interesting combinations of stuff on that cutting mat. A lot of chemicals come together. That's good stuff.
It may be better that we don't know.
You know what? It might be. Remember, I think was it Jim before the show said, "Is the government listening to you, Andy?" maybe we should put a pin in this one. But no, Greg, fantastic. Thanks for sharing.
The boxcar looks nice too.
The boxcar is amazing. as a donation bucket, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that ain't bad.
That ain't bad.
That ain't bad.
All right. Bill Kenkel here, working on scratch building a small coal loader for the branch line.
Oh, nice.
That is awesome.
That is pretty nifty.
I'm seeing a lot of modelers posting some scratch building here. And the grain elevator from a few weeks ago, awaiting weathering and final assembly, modified the head house to make it a little more unique.
Well, hey, it's like I've always said before, if you get a niche, scratch build it, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I got that joke.
I'm here all week.
We'll be here all week, folks.
Oh, man. I don't want this to end. Okay. Ryan Osmowski finished the decals on my GP35 and caboose and now working on painting and installing detail parts. 6 months in, but finally looking towards the finish line. Hey, this is looking good. Here's a better shot.
Look at
nice. That's pretty.
That's cool.
Well done, Ryan.
I like that.
I
like that a lot.
That's really sharp.
And the caboose. We can't forget the caboose.
That looks cool too.
Well done, Ryan. Thank you for sharing. Keep up the good work. All right, Philip Dimmer. Hey, everyone. We are currently working on the arched highway I-beams for one of the overpasses needed for the Eastern Dakota and Wilkin.
Guys, I got to step away for 1 second. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Look at this. So looks like he's fashioned some sort of jig or apparatus to help with the gluing process here.
That's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, it is. Well done, Philip. Clem Harris. Sound, and more sound on the old UP 1983 Western Pacific Heritage.
I like that one. That.
You don't see that one out a lot, do you?
No.
You don't see a lot of pics of that one.
No.
Did it wreck?
I don't think so. But that one and the Missouri Pacific one are my two favorite ones.
The Mopac one is
the Mopac one. Yeah, that one's pretty cool.
Yeah, which out of the UP Heritage ones, which one's your least favorite? Let us know in the chat which one.
Mine personally is the Northwestern one. Be honest with you, I just
you don't like the Northwestern one.
No.
What out of the
Katie one's not my favorite either. The
red one.
Yeah, Katie's meh.
What's your least favorite section crew? Out of the UP Heritage units, toss it up there. Which one's your least favorite? All right, Timmy Ellum Chapman. I'm working on a bar mills kit in N scale.
Nice.
Whoa. Okay, that looks good. It's got the windows kicked out. Wonder what this must be like a wharf.
Kind of looks like it.
Yeah. Cool. It's really turning out good. Robert J. Thomas, working on a project to bring back an alternate history version of the Wichita Northwestern as a late 80s short line. Maybe he'll soon have his very own short line of lies.
Ooh.
Cool. Very cool, Robert. Again, impeccable modeling. I know you do a lot of the Frisco stuff too. It's pretty good stuff. Like to see the finished product on this one. Paul Bukowski, back to building S-scale freight cars after the modelers retreat in the Twin Cities. The box car is a banger and a rustic car in the red, white, and blue scheme. The flat car is a pre-size kit. You know about those, Mike, don't you?
Yes, I do.
The pre-size kit with a custom plate steel load. Wow. Nice. These pre-size kits turned out pretty good, didn't they, Mike?
Yeah, I got 2 of that flat car kit yet to build, and then I've got a center beam kit that I've got to build yet too. Now, yeah, they're sharp.
Now this thing down here below the flat car, is that a ramekin?
That kind of looks like a ramekin, yeah. It's an interesting.
I get bonus words for knowing what that is, right? Bonus points for that.
Yeah,
I would say
ramekin. Let's see here. David Winther. Okay, here we go.
Ooh.
Building this ogle coaling tower I ordered from AliExpress. Yes, this is where you chuckle to yourself. I couldn't find anything similar in HO anyplace. I liked any place I liked. I'm gonna guess looked. So I risked it and ordered this from China. Some of the parts are very good. Others, I'm not even sure what kind of wood this is. It's not what you would normally expect, though. Very dark and warp prone. It has some stickers on the back side, like it was some kind of shipping box container in a previous life.
Chances are.
It'll do for now. But with this as an example, I think I could scratch build a better one in the future. Well, I mean, let's really dive in here.
On the surface, it doesn't look horrible.
No, not at all.
What is this trophy marble here? Taekwondo champion? You see it next to the coaling? I'm not even looking at the coaling tower. I mean, the coaling tower looks good, regardless of the weird stickers in the wood. Taekwondo? Am I reading that right? First place, May 4th. Taekwondo champion.
Wow.
David Winther, are you like a ninja?
Yeah, I guess I'm impressed because if it was me and there was warped wood, I would have taken that piece of marble and hit the kit with it.
Yeah. What is it? Tom Johnson calls it the wall bash, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It really doesn't look that bad, though, David. I mean, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Taekwondo champion. We'll need to know more about that. All right. C.A. Fain. So many rabbit holes, so little time posting this and then going to bed. Couplers, track work, weathering, driving up since 3:30 a.m. and then the rain, which ruined my paint plan. Central Illinois, I tell you, what's on your workbench? Modeler's issues. Anyone need couplers? Where's my Calgon? So
that's pretty funny.
Yeah, he's I know he put a post up on if anyone's wanting to order some of those inventive models. Is that it? The Sergeant replacements. So hit him up. He's putting together a big order. So if anyone wants to go in with him on it, let him know. Yeah, cool work there. Got a lot going on. Some of the cars that he's done are pretty cool. He's really into detailing, hyper detailing cars. So I'm glad he has shared some of his work with us. All right. Boy, just the heat. Paul Bellamore.
There we go.
What's that?
I said, what did you do? Everything went blue.
Yeah, I clicky, and then things go weird. Paul Bellamore working on a few projects at a time, my temporary workspace while my layout is being constructed. Paul's going to be on the show in a few weeks.
He is.
Gonna share some rat
for
bag.
the Penn Central there.
What's that?
Points for the Penn Central car.
You have a soft spot for the PC, don't you?
I do. I don't know
I do
why.
too. I don't.
It's like that guy who really tried. You know, he brought two bad families together. Tried like the Dickens, and they shot him anyway. You know, it's like
yeah.
And so I have nothing against Conrail. I have nothing against the Pennsy at New York Central, but I mean, come on.
It's kind of like that uncle we don't talk about.
I am that uncle you don't talk about.
I like that uncle. He was fun to hang out with.
Right? Taught you how to light stuff on fire behind the barn, man. I mean,
right. Liam Hoffman, the FRVR's big three are close to being done. All Atlas models with custom parts. So that's the red and yellow ones are the two SD24s. The old the old 2500, that's a 35, SD35.
It used to be a high hood.
Used to be a high hood, that's right. And it's still boasting its Southern heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it was an ex-Southern unit.
Yeah, it ran like that up until the WC rebuilt it, I want to say.
Yeah, and then the Wisconsin Central rebuilt it. Yeah. Always had a little soft spot for these three locomotives. Don't know why.
So have I. May or may not have had a fire one time on the way out of Neenah towards
on one of those locomotives.
Well, I can neither confirm nor deny that that may have happened.
Yeah, Lloyd
more
Roberts.
than once.
Crispy SDs.
Yeah.
Almost Lloyd Robertson. Almost done with my Cato SD40-2. I have to finish up the handrail stripes, then weathering. Boy. And KCS was in the news recently, weren't they?
Yeah, the CP and the KCS are now going to be joined in holy matrimony.
Yeah. Tom O'Connell here. 4 F-plate high cube box cars clear coated and ready for weathering. Looking good. Looking good. Pan pastels there. Watch out. Mike Slater. Here we go. Former Workbench of the Week winner, Mike Slater. Building a new traction module. The scene represents a 5-mile road grade crossing on the north shoreline. Building this while waiting for my custom building from Mr. Rindt for the merchandise dispatch building for the Racine module. Here he goes. He's weathered with taco sauce, except for the roof. That was Artist Oils. Mike, nice job on the barn. That looks good. Well done. I'll have to add Jim back to the stream. Did I lose you too, Mike?
No, I'm right here.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure everyone's here as we carry on here. Kaylee Faye just started adding something to one of the buildings, made an additional building from an DPM kit. We'll open 2 of the loading bays and add interior and also some lights. That's going to be sweet.
That'll be sweet.
Yes.
That'll be really nice.
Keep us posted on the updates here, Kaylee. I want to see how that turns out. Dennis Carroll, not my workbench, but pretty cool. Does that look familiar, Mike?
Grafton and Upton.
Grafton and Upton,
Nice.
baby.
Very nice.
That's pretty cool, Dennis. Bob.
What is that? There's no schmuckery going on there. That's too clean.
This is brilliant. This is just beautiful, isn't it?
Oh my gosh.
So
I would look at that. I wouldn't know where to start.
Hold on
I'd be afraid to make it dirty.
Here, so there's an excuse, I think. So okay. Bob Two-Sink, slowly moving into my new workshop.
Okay.
So here we go. So now we're starting to. He's got a brand new workshop. This is I give him a week. This will all be projects. Is this a mill? It's got a mill.
That's awesome.
Really nice, Bob. This is what I dream of for a workshop.
Oh yeah.
That's nice. That's really pretty. Nice cabinets, drawers. Looks like looks like we're listening to the podcast here. It's got it up on the computer screen. We're getting points for that.
Absolutely.
I think that's it. I think we're down to the end.
Voltron,
Jim? What do you say?
I was making some notes as I went along here, and
you know what? Why don't we drag this out? Let's see what we have here. What are the notes?
I liked Ian Boone's N scale stuff. That
was good.
I like Paul Cassar's warehouse scene with the platforms for the tank car. That was very nice, and all the scenery he's scenery yet to do, but still looked great. And Paul Scott August's CNW, you get soft spot there.
Yeah,
but I suppose there's points for Voltron too. I mean,
Voltron.
All right, I think tonight's Workbench of the Week winner is going to go to Greg Gay. Congratulations, Greg. Otter Creek and Rio Grande. Hands down, Voltron wins the day. It was also a complete mess.
Perfect.
I just want to make it clear that this does not mean that every workbench needs to have Optimus Prime or Voltron
or Yoda or Baby Yoda.
Wait a minute. What was sponsored by Mattel?
Yeah. What was the name of the show that had the marionettes? Remember when they were space
Thunderball XL5 or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Voltron beats Bicycle Wheel. Oh man, that's good stuff. So Jim, thanks for adding the commentary on that tonight too. Sure. So we're getting close to hour 3 here, so that means we're going to start winding down. So Greg, we're gonna actually put you on the Wall of Fame for Workbench of the Week winners, and then Mike and I are working up something special for all of those winners. We'll have something coming shortly for all of them. So
can I just show you one thing I did in HO scale? I just want you to understand that I'm just as crazy in HO scale.
Yeah, let's see it, Jim.
All right.
So this is further diving into the madness.
Okay, hang on. Now where is that? There we go. So this is an HO scale interlocking tower for the Pacific Electric Railway. It's called the Amoco Tower, which stands for American Olive Oil Company. I scratch built this. This is using I-beams, L-beams, H-beams, and yes, the rivets are real and they are functional.
Wait, what?
Yeah, this is HO scale.
No,
so you popped
the rivets are you. Yeah, Andy.
So did you use like Archer decals?
No. Those are Grant line rivets that actually you can see them coming through on the backside.
Oh my god!
And they actually bear weight.
Yeah. This is freestanding. This isn't glued to anything. It came out as perfectly squared and as I could have ever hoped for.
Wow, that's incredible.
and they bear weight.
Yeah, because the tower, the operator's cabin is it's a substantial amount of weight compared, obviously, to the I-beams. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong; they are glued in place. It's not like they're like I sat there with a hot iron, melting the backside of them or something. But they are. But I did drill through every one of these to.
David Winter's right. Is this when we start drinking?
I think so.
I'm up for it.
That's amazing.
This is good stuff. Way to go, Jim. Jim, you and I will have to be in some talks here soon. I have some ideas I need to throw at you after seeing tonight's show. We need to talk. Just for my sanity.
Okay.
Just for my sanity's sake. So I do want to throw it out to the section crew. We're about 51 members still hanging on here 3 hours in. If you have any last questions, when we start drinking or when we hang it all up for Jim, when we should do that, just let us know in the chat. But at any rate, any questions about modeling or anything that we saw tonight, please get them in the chat real quick. We're going to just do right before we hang up the hanger up for tonight. Mike, I always do this awkward thing where I throw it over to you for any final thoughts, and then we'll pass it on to Jim for the closing remarks. So what do you think, Mike?
Well,
this is my favorite part of the show.
I tell you what,
a kick out of the fact that Mike Osterchag is speechless.
Yeah, right. I've known Jim for years and years and years, and I know what kind of modeler he is. I had no idea he was even involved in this thing until a few years ago when I saw him down in Milwaukee and give this whole presentation. Jim, that presentation is just a drop in a bucket compared to what you did tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
That I tell you what, it's so amazing to know that when you put your mind to doing something and you want to do it at a high level, it's speed. It's not about speed. It's not about anything else like that. It's about having the passion to doing it and making sure you're doing it the way it's supposed to be done, the right way. Yeah. And I mean, come on, seriously. There was a question, and I think it may have been Ralph a long time ago, about 45 minutes ago, hour ago, or something like that. He mentioned how much stuff ended up getting tossed that didn't make the cut. Like where you would start making something, and it was just like, I got to start this over. And
I can answer that. 2 buildings. One from myself and one from John Dornfeld.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. See,
I mean there might have been the occasional piece of styrene where, you cut a wall, and you went, nuts, I didn't line that up right, and you had to start over. But you end up reusing that piece again. I hate to say it, I'm a poor enough man that I can't afford to waste. I mean, that's the other part of it. It sounds silly, I know, but it's the truth of it. I can't really afford to waste material, especially back then.
For everybody out there, and this isn't trying to blow smoke up Jim's rear end at all, but it's if you don't look at this show tonight, and we've had some incredible modelers on, if you don't look at this show and draw some sort of inspiration into your modeling, then you've really got to take a deep, hard, long look at what you're doing, because there is no way you cannot be inspired by what we just saw tonight. There's just none. No. It's incredible. You're a master artist, Mr. Rindt, and I'm very honored to know you and have you as a friend.
Well,
thank you very much, and thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Been a blast. I get a kick out of this. This is fun. Yeah. Otherwise, I sit here and talk to myself, and that just sucks.
Jim, as we tie down for tonight, what would you want? Any last thoughts to, I guess, maybe summing up the project or future modeling efforts? What do you want to basically leave with our audience tonight?
Well, I think one of the things that came out of this project is that, they say things like this in church too, that everybody can contribute in their own way. Not everybody can cut a big check, but one guy did. Not everybody can, do the landscape modeling maybe, or the scenery, as well as others. Maybe not everybody can have the same attention to detail, but everybody can contribute in some fashion. And I think it's good that there's enough depth and breadth. I mean, I just went to the Madison train show, and there are some things there that make a guy cringe. And I'm not saying that as a cheap shot. It's not a judgment. It's just there's only so much Lego I can take.
All right. Yeah.
Right.
But, and then you see other people who, you see these layouts again and again and again, and you're kind of like, okay, I thought maybe you guys would have done more with it. I guess. And obviously this display is done. It's closed. I mean, I do have to go in and do some maintenance probably this next summer, because it's been 10 years since since we dedicated it. But you don't, just because you think you're done, don't be. There's a way. Maybe you built an overpass and it looked good to you 10 years ago, or you built a post office or your own home. I hate the word evolve, but use what you've learned and try something new. Give it boldly go where your knife has never gone before.
Yeah.
Okay. How about that for now?
That's awesome.
I
love that reference.
That is a t-shirt slogan right there.
Yep.
I'd have my fat face on it though. It would just make the shirt,
It just, challenge accepted.
Take the chin a little for me, though, would you?
We'll do.
But no, in all sincerity, I mean, do it, try it, and don't be afraid. I mean, I remember one of the things in college was you'd have a writing teacher. The best writing teachers start you off with somebody else's work, and make you write from there. Maybe it's one paragraph or it's one sentence, but you go from there. I can't think of his name now. A historian that wrote several wonderful books about the Revolution and about the Brooklyn Bridge and whatever. He said that was one of the best things he would do for his students. He gave them a photograph, and there maybe it was a limited caption on the photograph, and he said, "Now go write a paper about this." And so maybe it's a train derailment. Maybe it was a building fire. Maybe it was elephants in the town square. Who knows? Why did it get there? Go find out why. Go figure it out, and then do something with it and come back to me with your best work. And your best work will get better every time. So boldly stretch out with that knife. Do something different. And you don't necessarily take your project that you didn't like and take it out back and light it on fire. Set it on a shelf and have it stare at you and say, next time, buddy, I'm doing better than you. And when you do, then take that thing out and burn it. But seriously, stretch yourself, try it. And maybe scratch building isn't your thing, but maybe detailing is, maybe research is. Maybe you can do all the research and then have somebody else scratch build for you. Somebody who has no clue where to start looking. I could do 10 hours on this cast about where to find records and photographs and evidence of how a structure used to look. But not everybody can do that. Not everybody thinks the way I do in terms of that kind of yeomanry.
Yeah.
But everybody has some talent of some kind. And maybe you got a guy that's just good at sanding stuff. He knows how to sand things. Maybe you got a guy who's good at cleaning the wheels for your cars. Involve people. Make a friendship out of this. That's the one thing that's been the most fun about model railroading to me is I have met people I would never have met otherwise.
Yeah.
And
the whole present company.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I I've had people who are now, I would say, are some of my best friends that came up to me nervously at Train Fest in like 2007, 2008, back when I was, a neophyte to this project even. And the talking to me like I was some grand master. And I said, no, just so what do you do? Make people feel welcome and then boldly stretch out, do something different, and don't be afraid to take time to think things over before you do it. And don't be afraid to start over if you don't like it. And on top of it, otherwise try doing something for somebody else. Because until you've made a model that is never going to stay on your table, on your bench, on your layout, and you give it away to somebody, and 5 years later, somebody else says, hey, I was operating on a layout, and I saw this depot that you built. Wow, that was cool. You can't express that. There's no way to explain it. It isn't pride, it isn't ego, it isn't anything. It's just like amazement. It's fascinating. It's just there's something for everybody, and there's something for everybody to share. So make it happen.
Excellent. Jim, I just want to thank you again. Truer words have never been spoken, and I think it's kind of ringing true with some of the commentary from some of the modelers that we've had on in past shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Try. Just
try.
Put the knife to the styrene and try.
Exactly.
And there's another thing brought up, which a lot of the other guests have brought up. Make a friend. Talk to someone. Build a community. Share an interest. Have a conversation. Fantastic. I know I was one of those nervous people that came up to you at Train Fest a few years ago, right?
Yeah.
We've had some fantastic conversations, and I always enjoy your company. And I think I've, after tonight, really have an appreciation for, stuff that you told me, the advice you've given me, and now seeing your artwork. It's because that's what it is, tonight, and hearing the story behind it is just really, really blown me away. Thanks, Jim, for
no
that.
problem. It's an honor to be here.
So, section crew, this is where we're going to tie down for tonight. A couple of administrative notes. See you in 2 weeks. We'll have I think it's, I don't know who we're going to have. I'll have somebody on the show with us. I think was it Paul? Maybe Paul Kassar coming on. I can't remember. We will be back to show in 2 weeks. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. It's a great way to support us. Every subscription helps us. And share us with your friends. Talking about that community. If you know someone that doesn't know anything about us and maybe would like us, pass the word on to some of your friends. And then if you want to be part of the community, we do have a Facebook group, the Second Section Podcast. Fantastic place where modelers like tonight sharing everything that they're doing on the workbench. We're getting people asking questions, and all the modelers are coming and answering stuff. It's Paul Kassar. He's on in 2 weeks. So, but again, join us out there in Facebook land. And I do want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to Jim for taking the time. Mike, this is a fantastic show. Thank you.
Awesome. Well,
thank you for doing the research on the Grafton and Upton. That was really cool.
That was really cool. Yeah.
And then again to the section crew for fantastic comments tonight in the chat. We do appreciate it. And we're going to sign off tonight, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Good night, everyone.